Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. We are up to Job 27, almost to the good bits. And Lawrence, do we have any opening comment for this part?
No. I dumped my entire load of commentary on on 26. No, I'm sure I'm gonna have more things to say, especially once we get to Job 38. But
Yep.
yeah, there's not gonna be anything super special that I specifically have to talk about until that point.
Okay.
Just remember that the during this section, things are
Yeah.
kind of perhaps jumbled because no
Yeah.
one's really quite sure what order things should go in.
Yeah.
But we did talk about that a little bit last week.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think Clines has Job's 9th speech at verses 1 through 6 and 11 through 12. And then Sophar's speech is composed of verses 7 through 10 and 13 through 17. And 18 through 23. So it's very jumbled, like between the friend's speech and Job's speech. So it's not really clear what's happening here.
Okay. So something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear.
Yeah, a lot of the interpretation depends on what order you think it actually is supposed to be read in.
And if you think it's
it is not
weird.
to me that there's a man with a gun over there. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I should note from sorry.
Yeah, just a quick note here. So yeah, it starts off like in in chapter 25, like we have Bildad speaking, and then chapter 26, Job answered, and then chapter 27, Job again took up discourse, even though he was the one that was supposed to be talking for the other thing, or for the previous chapter. And then I think where was it in chapter 29, right? Yeah, chapter 29, Job again took up his discourse. So like it's so weird, and there's a reason why scholars like look at other parts of the text and go like, wait, no, this should go over here, and this should go over here. So it does get kind of wonky.
Okay. So if you're ready, I'll just go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah, sure.
What could possibly be your hesitation, Tomer?
No, I just wanted to note something from Clines' commentary. So he writes that there are very many views of how these speeches should be arranged, if at all. Everyone agrees that verses 1 through 6 is Job's, and very many scholars believe that chapter 28 is certainly not his. There is less agreement about the assignment of what intervenes, verses 7 through 23, though the majority think that most of it is not Job's. Rowley agrees that Job's speech is only 1 through 6. Pope and Alonso Shekels Diaz add verse 7, and others add verse 12 or 11 through 12, etc., etc. So, yeah, just clarification.
If it's not Job speaking, do we have any idea who it might be speaking?
I don't know, what was the name of the guy who hasn't said anything yet? Maybe it was him.
We just had Bildad.
There is Elihu, but he's later on.
Well, yeah, no, I know he's late. He doesn't count until he shows up.
Is it?
You would think
he makes an introduction.
You would think that the infallible word of a supreme being would be better written.
Peter, he's testing our faith or critical thinking. No one knows which. Good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Peter, our titles are missing.
Our tags here, yeah, name tags.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a title. I was known as Lord Aaron. Let's see.
You know what? It's been a while for me too. And for me, it was I'm trying to remember my last D&D name. I think I was using Megasis, and I was playing off of like Pegasus from Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, whatever. You guys don't even know who that is. Fucking
Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yes. I was Pegasus. My character was Megasis. And it was just
Megasi.
like
greatest character in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. He's a great character. He's awesome.
Okay. There's a negasonic teenage warhead here. All right. So Job again took up his discourse and said, "As God lives, who has taken away my right, and the Almighty, who has made my soul bitter, as long as my breath is in me, and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils, my lips will not speak falsehood, and my tongue will not utter deceit. Far be it from me to say that you are right. Until I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. I hold fast my righteousness, and I will not let it go. My heart will not reproach me as long as I live. May my enemy be like the wicked, and may my opponent be like the unrighteous. For what is the hope of the godless when God cuts them off, when God takes away their lives? Will God hear their cry when trouble comes upon them? Will they take delight in the Almighty when they call upon God at all times? I will teach you concerning the hand of God. That which is with the Almighty I will not conceal. All of you have seen it yourselves. Why have you become altogether vain? This is the portion of the wicked with God, and the heritage that oppressors receive from the Almighty. If their children are multiplied, it is for the sword, and their offspring have not enough to eat. Those who survive them, the pestilence buries, and their widows make no lamentation. Though they heap up silver like dust and pile up clothing like clay, they may pile it up, but the just will wear it, and the innocent will divide the silver. They will build their houses like nests, like booths made of sentinels of the yard, made by sentinels of the yard. They will go to bed with wealth, but will do so no more. They open their eyes, and it is gone. Terrors overtake them like a flood. In the night, a whirlwind carries them off. In the east wind, where the east wind lifts them up, and they are gone. It sweeps them out of their place. It hurls at them without pity. They flee from its power in headlong flight. It claps its hands at them and hisses at them from its place. The end.
Yeah, kind of the end. It's like
the last
the
part
second
is not
part
Job.
of his speech.
I'm
yes.
sorry. That's not Job talking.
I
don't know
the
who's
last
talking.
part.
That the bit where he says that that their children are all multiplied for the sword. I mean, that's a response to Job saying, how come, the wicked have progeny in the earth and all mine are taken away? It's the whole thing is just, I don't know. It doesn't sound like Job. Not buying it. Not the whole thing. The beginning sounds like him, but
yeah, I mean, Habel writes that the opening topic statement in verse 13 is found almost verbatim as the summative declaration of Tzafal's previous speech in 2029. This speech, therefore, seems to resume at precisely the point where the former speech ended.
mm-hmm.
And in Clines at 14, the fate of the wicked man. So several commentators take it to be part of Tzafal's speech, at least these verses 13 through 23, I think. Yeah.
It makes me wonder if it was an accidental confusion or if someone really didn't like that the story of Job, at least this version of the story, because obviously we've discussed how he's an older character, was criticizing this idea of God enacting justice in this way. I don't know.
Yeah. So Clines writes that the view that has been preferred in this commentary is that although the Masoretic text ascribes 27:7-23 to Job, these verses, with the exception of verses 11 and 12, in fact constitute the last speech of Tzafal, which is otherwise entirely missing from the book. H.G. Reventlow thinks that verses 7 through 10 and 13 through 23 have been inserted at a late date from a wisdom psalm on the fate of the wicked, but it is preferable to assign the material rather to a final speech of Tzofar. I see.
I mean, it could be both, but yeah, it's definitely because it's saying the opposite of what Job has been saying this whole time. And the whole point of Job is that he doesn't give in to the popular idea. He maintains, no, this is what's happening. I'm not going to lie about it. I saw what happened, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise because it doesn't fit your narrative. Clearly a skill more people need in this day and age.
Okay, so should I start the commentary?
That is
I'm
perfectly
see-
fine with me.
Though I do see one comment at least.
Oh, yeah, we do.
I
We do.
guess, I don't know.
So Jojo Freelancer says, a question: which religion did Job follow?
Well, let's assume for a second there was a Job. Let's just
It
for
wasn't
sake of
Islam.
right.
According to the
Quran.
Quran, everybody in the Old Testament was Muslim.
Right, yes, because for them Muslim is like the the faith, right? The correct form of the faith. So like in its original form. That's what Islam is for them.
Yeah.
So no, he was not that though, because if you went up to
So you're
Job,
saying the Quran is wrong?
yes. If you went up to Job and were like, "Hey, are you a Muslim?" He'd be like, "What?" So no, the thing is, Job doesn't really make like that many direct references to or does he doesn't reference
Even
the
say
law at all.
Yahweh.
No.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't reference the law at all. So you could call it some form of Yahwism, I guess. Yeah, but definitely not like the character that we get in Job is like this would have been there's nothing that's specifically pointing towards like Judaism, right? Would be like early Israelite, right?
Yeah.
Yahwistic. So yeah.
I mean, just
It
like,
appeared to- kept it rather vague.
yeah. I mean, just like Islam thinks of, before Muhammad, there was still Muslims because they were the ones worshipping God in the right way. And the Jewish religion, in a sense, has this like idea of before, even before the Israelite religion developed, there were these ancient people that practiced some form of worship of our God, right? And that goes all the way back to Adam as well. So
They worshipped
It's
the
kind of a
creator
similar idea.
even without
Yeah.
knowledge. Yeah.
and it's
There's-
like this idea
there's-
that there was this like religion that everyone knew about, and like you've got what's his name, the priest in Salem. What's his name?
Melchizedek?
Melchizedek. Yeah, like so you
I
have these
thought
random
you were talking about
people-
like Salem, like the and I was like,
Massachusetts.
Samuel Parrish.
Not Massachusetts.
Yeah.
do you think
Unlike
it's
what
named
the Mormons
after?
think, Massachusetts is not in the Bible.
That's it. Job was a Mormon.
Massachusetts.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a similar. I think it's a very similar idea of like, God, the real God that we worship, has always been around, and people always knew about him from the first person. Yeah.
So he
Yeah,
wasn't.
everyone always knows that we knew that we were right.
Yeah.
So he was a Jehovah's Witness.
The one true church.
Yes.
It was a bogomil.
Okay, so I'll start with verse 2. Clines writes that when Job says, as God lives, he means that it expresses a desire that God should not live if the utterance is untrue, according to Forer. Thus, Job's oath is a potential curse against God. Swearing by someone or something implies a curse upon that thing if the promise or statement sworn to turn out to be wrong or invalid. The execution of the implied curse comes into effect only if the promise or statement falls or fails. Clines further writes, quote, It is an irony that Job swears by the God he believes has treated him unjustly. If he proves not to be innocent, then he has cursed God. But the only person who can disprove his innocence is God himself, since Job himself knows beyond a shadow of doubt that he has done nothing to deserve his suffering. If God does not declare Job innocent, then God has brought Job's curse upon himself. So long as God refuses to clear Job's name, in fact, he leaves himself open to the possibility of being cursed by Job. The irony is not exactly that Job affirms and denies the justice of God at the same time, as Strand, Terrien, Anderson, and others, for in swearing by God, Job is not calling upon his justice, but laying a curse upon God in the event that he, Job, is telling a lie.
Interesting little I feel like Job would make a good lawyer.
Yeah. I could see that, yeah. On verse 5, Hartley comments, quote, "With an exclamatory oath, Job rejects the counsel of his friends. This is another type of oath formula, quote, 'Far be it from me until I die.' This oath is less foreboding than that in verse 24, for it is grounded in Job's own fate rather than in God's being. As H. Rowley observes, quote, 'There is something sacrilegious or profane in the idea that is repudiated. Job declares that to admit that the friend's charges were true would be a violation of his duty to God,' end quote. Also, he will not deny his own integrity, in Hebrew tumati. The foundation of Job's faith in God in his personal conviction that he has been blameless in his relations with God and human beings. This verse is a direct allusion to 2:3, in which God confesses Job's integrity after his losses. If Job would concede to the friends that he was suffering for some wrong he had committed, he would destroy the central fiber of his stalwart moral character, for he would be seeking their approval by speaking a lie.
True.
On verse 7, it is unclear who Job refers to as his enemy. Several traditionals, like Rashbam, Kara, and Nachmanides, wrote that Job referred to any person whom he considered as his enemy. The enemy could also refer to God or to his friends. Habel notes that the enemy is spoken of in the singular, while the friends are addressed in the plural in verses 11 and 12. Moreover, the friends become Job's adversaries in a secondary way when they side with God in pursuit of Job in 1922. Thus, he takes the enemy here to be God. Clines, who takes verses 7 through 10 and 13 through 23 to be part of Zophar's speech, writes that Zophar is not thinking of any particular enemy of his, neither is he conscious of having any enemies at all. His emphasis is entirely on the wicked, rather than upon any hypothetical enemy he might have.
There is an acknowledgement in the narrative, though, of the enemy. I mean, Satan is the opposer, the accuser. I feel like he could be referring to that concept without necessarily having the character be conscious of the, what was going on in heaven and how he was being accused and whatnot.
On 11 and 12, Habel writes that Job summarizes what he has been doing with the friends in teaching them about El's threatening hand, quote unquote, and exposing the true facts about Shaddai. The hand is a symbol of God's oppressive and arbitrary intervention in Job's life, as we see in 10:7, 12:9, 13:21. These verses also recall motifs in 12:7 through 13, where Job speaks of the natural world teaching, Yari in 12:7, the truth about God's hand in 12:9, a truth that should be obvious to all. Job analyzes those realities which are with God in 12:13, an expression which Habel renders as the truth about Shaddai. Job summarizes that he has completed the task of teaching them about God's ways, and so there's no point in them continuing with empty arguments. Yeah. On 13 through 23, while the Masoretic text assigns these verses to Job's speech, several commentators take these verses to be part of one of the friends' speech. Hartley takes these verses to be part of Bildad's speech in chapter 25, since verses 13 to 23 offer a direct rebuttal to the ideas Job was struggling with in chapter 24. Clines takes verses 7 through 23, with the exception of verses 11 through 12, to be the last speech of Tzufal, which is entirely missing from the book. He notes that H.G. Reventlow thinks that verses 7 through 10, 13 through 23 have been inserted at a late date from a wisdom psalm on the fate of the wicked. He writes, however, that it is preferable to assign the material rather to a final speech of Tzufal. Likewise, Habel takes verses 13 through 23 to be part of Tzufal's lost speech, and notes that if we assign this speech to Tzufal, then the closing statement of Tzufal's previous speech in 2029 becomes the topic statement for this speech in verse 13. On 14 and 15, Clines notes that the fate of the children of the wicked is a common topic in wisdom texts, as we also see in 5:5, 18:19, 20:10, and Proverbs 13:22. Having many children is usually a mark of divine favor, and them dying early before their parents is a mark of signal divine displeasure. Tzufal argues that if the children of the wicked become too many, it is not a sign of divine blessing, but only to provide food for the sword. Those who will escape the sword will starve, and those who do not starve will die of the plague. The widows, at face value, must be those of the wicked person, who is referred to in the singular in verses 13 to 23, which makes him a polygamist, as argued by many commentators. Clines writes that while this makes sense, since in most societies only rich people can afford to be polygamous, it seems strange that the reference to polygamy should be dropped into the text so casually. Quote, "It is alluded to nowhere else in the book of Job, and it is not as though there is anything wrong with the practice, since in the Hebrew Bible it is mostly attested to among the ancestors and rulers of the people, not among evildoers. And it is strange, too, that the wicked person here being described should have been called in verse 13a an Adam, a person, and not an Ish, a man. If the wicked one in question is so clearly a male as to have wives, it is odd, too, to find here a reference to widows of the wrongdoer when there has been no sign hitherto that the wrongdoer has died. Indeed, the very point of verses 14 and 15 seems to have been that the wrongdoer outlives his or her children and has the misfortune of seeing their premature deaths." End quote. Instead, he takes the widows to be the wives of the wrongdoer's children, a reading hinted by Septuagint and favored by Nachmanides and Kimchi. On 16 and 17, Habel notes that here the speaker considers the possessions of the wicked. Although they achieve great wealth, the righteous will inherit their portion. He notes that there is a double entendre here with the dust, since it is both a symbol of what is abundant in Genesis 13:16 and 28:14, and as a symbol of death and decay in 17:16, with dust and decay being the standard word pair for what is transitory and ephemeral, as we've seen 4:19, 10:9, and 13:19. It is also interesting that clothing, rather than gems or metals, in 28:15 through 19, is chosen here as a sign of wealth. While expensive clothing was highly praised in the ancient Near East, as we see in Genesis 24:53, Joshua 7:21, and 2 Kings 5:22, it was subject to the corruption of moth and mildew, also Matthew 6:19. Habel suggested that the reference to clothing may have been dictated by the choice of the term ash, moth or guard, in the next verse.
I actually quoted Matthew 6:19 the other day. Someone asked me why the you know how in the plague story frog is singular. They asked me why. And I'm like, oh, because like things in swarms often take a singular. And I actually pointed to Matthew 6:19, where moth there is singular, even though it clearly means moths, plural.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking. Obviously, it was one giant frog that jumped out the river,
Right.
and then the people hit them, and then the frogs came out the mouth.
Who was that? Rashi? I also quoted him.
Okay.
The giant
Is it just
magical
Rashi?
frog.
I'm sure it's a
I
midrash
think
or
it's
something somewhere.
it is important to understand in the concepts of guilt and punishment, for God to visit punishment on a man's children, would have been for a very long time considered normal. People were not individuals in the way that we think of, individuals. The later law saying you can't punish the child for the faults of the father was actually a step in the right direction kind of for that. But you were never an individual. You were part of a clan, you were part of a family, you were a representation of your father and his father and his father all the way back. It's the mindset is very, very different from what we have today. And I mean, communities were very tight knit because at that time, you were subsisting, far in a far more, there wasn't the security we have with modern life and technology. One bad season, you can starve. You are at the edge of death all the time. And that forms very tight bonds and a concept of the collective far more strongly than we possess today. You couldn't just go buy a chicken at the supermarket. You had to raise it and kill it and pluck it yourself.
On verse 20, Clines designates the terrors, in Hebrew balahot, as personified spirits of vengeance, denizens of the underworld. They hunt their prey down, surround them, and drag them off to Sheol. Also Rashi and Hakham. These terrors overtake the wicked like water, kamaim. While this image seems tame, since water is not usually an image for sudden destruction, Clines notes that in Isaiah 28:17, waters, quote, sweep away a shelter, end quote. And so the image here may be of travelers caught in the bed of a wadi by a sudden rush of water from a cloudburst, according to Foyle. Job himself thinks of the wicked being stolen away by the tempest, as we see in 21:18. Tur-Sinai takes the referent not as the evildoer, but to his wealth, which flees from him, with the terrors washing all his wealth as water. Likewise, Hakham writes that the wicked man's wealth has disappeared and is gone, just as in modern Hebrew, when something is lost, we say that it has gone to Azazel. In Hebrew, halach la'azazel.
So they're talking about this tempest. Early, are you talking about the same verses where they were talking about the whirlwind?
In 20.
Yeah.
Terror overtakes, he would tasigehu kamaim balahot. Okay.
I'm just trying to imagine from a primitive perspective. I mean, how impressive volcanoes were. Of course, they thought that was a god. But here in Texas, direct experience with tornadoes, I could so see that inspiring religious worship. Those are impressive things to see.
Well, the thing is, it was storms in general that they associated with gods. Like the high god of the religions of the ancient Near East was usually a storm god. So we have Yahweh, we have Hadad, we have Baal. These are all storm gods, and they're all the high god. Even if they're not the creator deity, they're still the high god.
And we got to add to that the comment that he made earlier in this chapter. He says, "While God's spirit is in my nostrils," the common thing about spirit is air, as I've said so many times. They feel the movement of the air. They call it the spirit of God. So when the wind blows, that's God. When the wind is a tornado, that's definitely God. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean the language there, the breath of life, the breath of God in my nostrils, that God breathed into Adam, the breath of life, that divine spark, some variation of the human creation being an expression of a divine spark is very much part of that mythology.
Got a comment here from Kathy DeGraw, 89. Says, question for R and Ra. Do the general public in Texas believe they have a right to go into daycares and demand papers? Not sure what are you talking about ICE? Good.
I think it's referring to
the general public. So
yeah, I think it's is it referring to the guy who tried to go into like a daycare center in Iowa, I think? Where is Wolves?
Or are they talking about the daycare stuff going on in Minnesota?
Minnesota, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, not Iowa. Minnesota. Yeah, that's what it's probably referring to.
Somehow I missed that was centered around a daycare center.
More or less,
there was something
scandal some time ago, and
there was something
now they're
about
trying to blame it on him.
daycare scams or something like that, and then there was something about someone who was like arrested after an interview or something, where they were questioned about their politics and whether or not they were here legally. So I think those are two different things going on in Minnesota recently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
not related then. All right.
Yeah, I think
thanks.
I think the comment was about this guy who I think he's a YouTuber or TikToker. He like tried go with a camera going into one of these centers and being like, "Where are the kids? Where's your paperwork?" And stuff, prove
Wow.
that you're real.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that one was, because that's super fucking illegal to just walk in and start filming someone else's children.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah,
to answer the question directly, when you have a right, it's spelled out somewhere. And no, there's no right to go in and film other people's kids. There's no right to go into a daycare center when you don't have children in there, unless you're trying to enroll your kids in there.
I think the idea is that they're claiming that they're proving that there aren't any children there, so they know in advance that there's not going to be children there anyway. But yeah.
Okay, I am lost.
Yeah, don't worry.
All right, so the next comment is from Shut Up Matt. Says Lawrence, do all these pantheons have the storm god the same as the god of the forge / smithy?
What?
That would be the volcano god, right?
Are we talking
Yeah,
about
no,
like
those are
Hephaestus?
very different.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the
Hephaestus
Greek
is
and
not
Roman.
Zeus.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, Hephaestus was definitely not Zeus. So
Yeah, but I mean,
so
maybe
it says-
Yahweh is a
is he asking,
combination.
if they have
Eventually at some
wait,
point.
hold on, I'm not sure what the question's asking then. Do all these pantheons have the storm god the same as the god of the forge? Oh, like do you mean like giving like actually? Okay, I see. Okay, I see. If they're like forging weaponry or making weaponry, no, they do not do that. I don't think.
I don't know. This god in this very book stores his lightning bolts in a shed.
Well, the thing is, this god specifically is also later became also a war god. So, but that was after he became the high god. They were like, well, now since he's the high god, this is the one we should go to when we're in times of war.
Okay.
Yahweh Two Sheds Jackson.
Yeah. And finally, 22 and 23, Habel comments, quote, "The east wind is here personified as a demonic figure who violently hurls itself upon its victim. Like El, the warrior god who attacked Job, this evil wind shows no mercy, compare 16:13. The wicked are caught in its hideous hands, verse 22, just as Job was flung into the hands of the wicked by the warrior El, in 16:11. The sneering east wind then claps its hands in derision, as we see in verse 23a in Lamentations 2:15, and from the former abode of the wicked whistles with contempt at the fate of its victim. Compare Jeremiah 49:17. The image seems to be that of the wind whistling its sinister mocking sounds through the deserted ruins where the wicked rich once lived in splendor. Compare 3:14. The east wind, the terrors, and the storm, in verse 20, are viewed as independent agents of destruction against the wicked. Compare 1:19. But within the framework of verse 13, are to be recognized as the destined forces of death set in motion by El for the eventual annihilation of the wicked.
Sure, Jan.
Okay, Christians.
Yeah, sorry, just having some allergies.
Blow your nose and
How dare
storm
you
that.
have allergies?
Apparently, I have allergies, but I don't know what exactly.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, it's not really the season for allergies.
He's trying to get
but-
God's spirit out of his nose.
Oh, honey, I told you not to play with God.
Yeah. Yeah, you think that's God's spirit in your nostrils, but it's not.
Oh, God. There is a hell for dad jokes. You're going.
Guess who's talking about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Guess who's talking about Jesus? It's the ancient Christians again.
The parrot thinks it's Aaron.
It's Orig, yes. Yes, exactly. So I basically wrote everyone in the ancient Christians for this chapter. Let me just pull that real
So the
quick.
answer
Fair
is
enough.
everyone. Okay.
Everyone, yes. So the fathers interpret this part of Job's speech as a natural and further development of the previous reflections, according to Olympiodorus. The holy man does not lie either by participation or out of set purpose, but is entirely fixed on the truth, according to Gregory. Job expresses and defends his purity of heart, according to Gregory, firmness and perfect innocence, according to Ephraim, Ishudat, and Chrysostom. After declaring his innocence and purity, Job expresses his scorn and absolute condemnation of wickedness. Therefore, in this part of his speech, i.e. 8 through 23, the fathers underline the moral aspect and edifying value of his words, according to Olympiodorus, Julian, and Gregory. The righteous cohesively gather together those very testimonies of Holy Scripture that the heretic piles up deductively by a dabbling employment of the written God, according to Gregory. Gregory dialectically distinguishes the metaphors of scorning and sparing the offender and binding and loosing the hands. Yeah. So actually, not really about Jesus here. No. Not really.
Not really, no. Although
No.
I find it interesting that the ancient fathers glom on to the speech of Job, the part of Job where it says Job speaking, but it almost certainly isn't Job speaking, as an affirmation of good godly values. It's like this entire book is set up to contradict this idea that God is going to just, preserve the just and smite the wicked. And the one bit where that's misattributed to Job, they're like, ha, see? I need to stop fading out of existence. What the hell is this?
I think most of us. Yeah, I'm done.
All right. So are we moving on then to 28?
Yes.
Okay, Isaac, who's reading this one?
Okay, I'll go. I didn't prepare this one, but all right. Chapter 28. There is a mine for silver and a place where gold is refined. Iron is taken out of the earth and copper smelted from rock. He sets bounds from darkness to every limit man probes, to rocks in deepest darkness. They open up a shaft far from where men live, places forgotten by wayfarers, destitute of men far removed. Earth out of which food grows is changed below as if into fire. Its rocks are a source of sapphires. It contains gold dust too. No bird of prey knows the path to it. The falcon's eye has not gazed upon it. The proud beasts have not reached it. The lion has not crossed it. Man sets his hand against the flinty rock and overturns mountains by the roots. He carves out channels through rock. His eyes behold every precious thing. He dams up the sources of the streams so that hidden things may be brought to light. But where can wisdom be found? Where is the source of understanding? No man can set a value on it. It cannot be found in the land of the living. The deep says, it is not in me. The sea says, I do not have it. It cannot be bartered for gold. Silver cannot be paid out as its price. The finest gold of Ophir cannot be weighed against it, nor precious onyx, nor sapphire. Gold or glass cannot match its value, nor vessels of fine gold be exchanged for it. Coral and crystal cannot be mentioned with it. A pouch of wisdom is better than rubies. Topaz from Nubia cannot match its value. Pure gold cannot be weighed against it. But whence does wisdom come? Where is the source of understanding? It is hidden from the eyes of all living, concealed from the fowl of heaven. Abaddon and death say, we have only a report of it. God understands the way to it. He knows its source, for he sees to the ends of the earth, observes all that is beneath the heavens. When he fixed the weight of the winds, set the measure of the waters, when he made a rule for the rain and a course for the thunderstorms, then he saw it and gauged it. He measured it and probed it. He said to man, see, fear of the Lord is wisdom. To shun evil is understanding.
We got a couple of questions about the Hebrew
Yes.
translation versus the translation I'm reading.
Mhm.
In
Yes.
verse 3, did you say, Isaac, that God put an end to darkness?
I did. I think I mispronounced one of the words. He sets bounds for darkness to
Okay,
every
and
limit
by
man probed.
who is that referring to?
Yeah.
I think it's God, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, there is a note here. So the Hebrew would be like he puts an end to darkness. But
Ketsam.
the text given from at least the NRSVUE is miners put an end to darkness, because they're talking about taking iron and copper. So they go with miners put an end to darkness.
Yeah,
But it's
Steinsaltz
in-
has like man. Man sets an end to darkness. Investigates every end. It's like man's search for knowledge.
Wait, let's see.
Some commentaries
it must be
explain
made-
that the
oh, sorry.
subject is God. Okay.
Notes. In verse 3.
Yeah, Rashi says it's God. So people don't know.
Yeah,
Once
I mean,
again, infallible word of a supreme.
Well, you found a much better God to worship.
Yeah, and then on verses 20 and 21, the way it reads for me is where then does wisdom come from, and where is the place of understanding? And that sounds to me like the argument that I'm always hearing about, that science can't explain how mere matter achieves consciousness. But I am looking at a study of the evolution of cognitive abilities in marine animals, a hypothesis based on insights about cognitive gene polymorphisms in coelacanths and lungfish. Obviously,
Interesting.
Joe was not aware of this.
Yeah, it's almost like science actually looks at things and doesn't just look for excuses to cover its eyes and plug its ears and go la 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 la.
Yeah. It looks like it's trying to say that, we find all of these treasures by working hard and looking here and there. But if you want wisdom and understanding, I guess the answer is at the end, right?
I may not have
It's,
wisdom and
fear of
understanding,
God
but I have a
and shunning
kitty.
evil.
A kitty is best. Oh, look at how content that cat is. Look at the squinty eyes and the calm and the pause of relaxation. Very regal. That is a happy cat. Yes. Like I said, you found a much better God to worship.
Yeah, where does wisdom come from? Wait, it's looking at Hartley. So he notes that there is one variation between verses 20 and verse 12. Tabo, it will come, is used here in place of timatse, it will be found. P. Tserafa suggests that the former reflects human inability to find wisdom, while the latter refers to the human inability of acquiring it. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go to. Like. Oh, sorry.
What did the dog do? Did he unplug your headphones?
Yeah, she unplugged my headphones. Thank you, Emma.
Aw.
It's okay. It's okay. Nothing broken except my soul. Yes.
I love how
On
people
ver-
are like different. People are like different countries and stuff. They different languages, and then they have pets and they use like English names, but they're not like English, names that we use for pets. It's like Robert and Emma quite funny.
Yeah, this dog is called Emma because of Emma Stone. My sister Emma Stone.
Emma Stone?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I know that name.
The
Or Emma
actress
Watson,
is
or
awesome.
Emma Stone, or Emma Watson. Emma Watson.
okay, yeah.
One of the two. Yes.
There are many awesome Emmas.
I was thinking of Emma Thompson. Okay.
That's who. Yeah, my writing name, I took the last name from her because I think she's the best Emma, and that's a high compliment because there are many exquisitely excellent Emmas.
Like this one. Just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I love you. Okay, on 1 and
Of course
2.
you're not kidding.
Yeah, of course I'm not.
Have you heard
On
of-
1 and 2.
Have you heard of Emma May?
No.
Yeah, she's dangerous. Mixed martial arts.
Oh.
Emma May.
Okay. Oh.
I wish Lalandra was still here because I could ask her to hit you with a rolled up newspaper for me.
Why do people have such a thing against puns? It's like, if it's funny, it's funny. It doesn't have to be,
No, I don't know.
highbrow,
I've always been
whatever
a big
it is.
fan of puns. So
Yeah.
I mean, not
I
orange
know.
specifically, but puns in general.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay,
on
then
1
my
and 2.
unfinished sock says, "Don't break your soul. Like and share the stream instead."
Yeah. Oh, okay. On 1 and 2, Clines note that this is the only depiction of mining in the Hebrew Bible, though the language here is obscure. Each metal has its own colon, as we see in silver, gold, iron, and copper, with most translations taking the first colon in each of the first 2 lines as referring to mining, and the second to smelting, rendering a place where gold is refined, as we see in NIV, and copper smelted from ore. Habel notes that the key term place, makom, is repeated 4 times, as is in verses 6, 12, 20, and 23. And everything seems to have its appointed place in the order of things. In Job, place normally refers to a designated or appointed locus in the divine design of the universe. By establishing that rare and hidden commodities have a specified place in the cosmos, the poet prepares the way for asking about the primordial locus of wisdom, the most precious find of all, as we see in verse 12. On 5 and 6, Habel comments, quote, "The earth, whose deep domains mortals probe, is itself a realm where precious stones each have an appointed place," in Hebrew, makom. The earth, which on its placid surface produces grain for bread, has a tumultuous nether region which is convulsed by fire. Some commentators see here a reference to ancient blasting techniques. It is more likely, however, that the activity of volcanoes created the belief that the depths of the earth are consumed by fire at certain places. The ancients may have thought stones of fire, as we see in Ezekiel 28:14, were formed at these locations. As Pope points out, quote, "Stones of fire," in Ezekiel 28:14, is apparently a generic term for precious gems. These stones may be identical with the stones of lightning, in Hebrew aban barak, used in the construction of Baal's magnificent temple. The term sapphire is probably a reference to lapis lazuli, since sapphire was apparently unknown before Roman times. Perhaps, as Raleigh suggests, gold dust here refers to the particles of iron pyrites found in lapis lazuli, which glitter like gold. The deep fiery domains beneath the earth are more mysterious than anything on the surface, but not as deep or mysterious as wisdom.
And not as deep and mysterious as I am. Okay, my unfinished sock says, "Don't make insufferable dad jokes. Like and share the stream instead."
In fairness, one does not impede your ability to do the other. Sadly.
On 7 and 8, the falcon, Aya, is noted for its sight, as we see in Talmud Chulin 63, Rashi, and Kara. Although some commentators, like Terrien and Hartley, take verse 7 as asserting the superiority of human insight to that of birds, Clines, however, notes that the wisdom of birds and certain beasts proverbially outstrips humans, as we've seen in 35:11. Instead, it is used to emphasize the hiddenness of this activity, even from the faint sight of the falcon. He writes that the theme remains that of the effort that humans will devote to locating and uncovering what is precious. The words for proud beasts, shachatz, and lion, shachal, are taken by traditionals to be names for the lion, as we see in Talmud Sanhedrin 95a, which states that there are 6 names for the lion. Early translations have shachal as lions, but for shachatz, Septuagint has braggarts, Vulgate merchants, possibly reading shachatz as being arrogant. Most commentators take shachatz to refer to wild beasts in general, though Clines notes that Newsom thinks that they may be lizards. Similarly, Mowinkle took shachal to be a mythological creature, a serpent or wyvern, a reading favored by Pope and Grabe. Targum reads, "The path of the tree of life which Samael does not know, who flies like the bird, the eye of the falcon gazes at it. The sons of Adam have not walked on it, and the serpent did not deviate on it."
So when you read about the lion, I had the question about where was the book of Job written? Because I mean, there are no lions anywhere near there now that I thought,
But
and
they were.
maybe-
There
Yeah.
were.
They're extinct now.
Okay, but
have a
now we're
photo.
interpreting that it maybe lion doesn't mean lion, that lion could mean wyvern, or more likely, I think, cobra.
The word, specifically the word here, because it's shachal, which is found elsewhere, like in Hosea 5:15. Again, there are several names for lions. You also have
Yeah, there's
Kfir,
something like-
Lavi, Aryeh.
Now,
So
wouldn't a
Ari.
reference to a flying serpent, like a wyvern, also
Yes.
likely imply a cobra?
serpent, wyvern, maybe.
like a winged snake.
Yeah, I mean there are people who have made that interpretation. The hood of the cobra. I know there's cobras there.
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't there like
Um,
a flying snake, not like flying, but like a glides? It has some sort of a.
Yeah, that isn't there like a
Jumps
snake,
from
a snake
trees.
that has
There
like
is,
the wings?
but it's
It uses its whole body,
it's
no?
Far Eastern, and it's a very exotic. Nobody in writing Job would have known about it.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
so Hartley notes that instead of reading shachal as lion, Mowinkle translated lizard. He points out that in Semitic thought, a connection exists between the lion and the serpent. For example, the serpent griffin on Marduk's temple at Nippur is a composite of features of the lion and the serpent. He then argues that the word here may designate the serpent dragon that is found in mythology. This is an intriguing suggestion, but this word for lion, shachal, is chosen to parallel shachatz, proud, in the first line.
So now did you say crowd?
Crowd? What did I say?
What did you say?
Proud.
Marduk's temple.
Like a proud
Yeah,
beast.
proud. Yes, proud.
Proud. Okay.
Shachatz, yeah, because shachatz means dignity or pride.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my unfinished journey says, "Hail Aaron and Panel, and hail insufferable dad jokes."
Hmm.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I try.
So I still don't know if they're actually talking about lions, because apparently nobody else knows if they're talking about lions either. They're talking about anything from snakes to griffins and wyverns and whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The point is just something is very majestic and God made it, so you should be, gosh, I'm all really very impressed down here, I can tell you. And shut up.
Yeah, but I just want some kind of practicality. I mean, you have to be careful if you go outside after dark, because there are lions. In this area it has a little bit more gravitas, I think, than be careful when you go outside and watch for flying wyverns or ring wraiths.
Yeah,
or
watch
something
for.
like that.
Honestly, I will
Not
say
cool.
that if you will ask
Jersey
a
Devils.
modern Hebrew speaker what shachal is, they will probably not know.
I'm sorry?
If you'll ask a modern Hebrew speaker what shachal is, they'll probably not know.
Can you find one for me? Let's try that out.
Tommy, did you know the word before?
Yes.
Where did you learn it from? From reading this, or did you come across it anywhere?
It is not nowhere. We usually use Aryeh to refer to lion because that's the most common. Like you have
Yeah, but I
Kfir,
think-
you have Lavi, but Aryeh is
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
the only word used for lion, at least in modern Hebrew, which makes
Yeah,
sense.
Yeah. I think like probably those three are probably the ones that people know because of like poetry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's very obscure.
Yes.
Like I think it goes back to the Talmud where it claims that
Yes.
there's like 7 words that
Yes.
refer to a
Ari,
lion.
Kfir, Ari, Kfir, Lavi, Laish, Shachal, Shachatz.
Laish. Yeah, that makes
Laish
sense.
as well. Yes, but like we mainly we use Aryeh, and
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the rest of the names, it's mainly figurative. So
Yeah, Kfir is normally like a young lion,
yeah,
but not a cub, but like a, like a, I don't know what the word is.
A youth,
like
like a young
a
young lion
lion-
out to prove
a
himself,
cub.
kind of a thing.
What is
yeah,
he?
that's not in a.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I mean, there you could use like the words for like to describe what the lion is. For example, Laish, it apparently refers to an old lion, and Shachab refers to a lion with a scary depiction, like a scary lion, or something like that. But it's not something that you really encounter. You just say Aliyah Mafrid, scary lion.
Yeah, I mean, Kfir is a name as well, right?
Yes, Kfir is a name, Lavi is a name,
And Arya is a name.
Aliyah is a name, everything is a name. Okay. 9 through 11, Hartley comments, quote, "To uncover these hidden treasures, miners vigorously attack the mountains. They assault the flint stones as they carve out tunnels to reach the ore. Their work
what
makes
did
it
Fred
appear..."
and Barney do?
Yeah. Their work makes it appear that they overturned the mountains by the roots.
Sorry.
Earlier in the hymn of praise, Job recounted that God overturns the mountains, causing them to quake and tremble before his presence, as we see 9:5. Here, human beings, acting somewhat like God in their search for treasures, are not afraid to shake the mountains, which were considered eternal and often associated with the dwelling place of the gods. Mining thus attests mankind's daring bravery. Miners cut a series of channels, ye'orim, in the mountainside. In the singular, this Hebrew word refers to the Nile, and in the plural, it stands for the tributaries of the Nile in the delta. In this context, it functions as a technical term for mining shafts. The miner enters the earth through these paths, and his eye sees precious treasures. He penetrates even to the sources of the rivers, the springs deep within the earth, in hopes of finding precious gems. Truly, human beings have vast knowledge and great technical skills.
I really hope there are no creationists watching, because Tomer, you just proved that dinosaurs and humans lived together because they attacked the Flintstones.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything about the Flintstones.
Yes, you did.
That was Aaron, yeah, well.
I don't know.
I said
Tomer,
Flintstone, not
It kind of
stones.
sounded like you said Flintstones.
Yeah.
No, I said Flintstone, not
That was
stones.
plural.
No, that wasn't plural.
I mean,
That wasn't plural.
JPS and Scheidels both translate it as the flinty rock. I guess
So
in
worried
modern
about
Hebrew.
Wilma and Pebbles.
Chalmish? Yeah.
Chalamish. Yeah.
Chalamish, yes.
Is that not the modern Hebrew word for flint?
I guess.
Like-
we use tsur actually
Ah.
for
yeah, you're right.
flint. Yeah.
Okay, so the atheist carpenter says if they can't decide if they're talking about lions, lizards, wyverns, or snakes, it explains why they can't define a type. And I think by type they meant the right kind.
Yeah, I also think the mankind.
Mm.
In fairness, it's possible that they've gotten called out on kind so much that they've switched to type. I'm sure it exists in some translations. I mean, because rebranding your bullshit and pretending, oh no, this you can't just say it's the watchmaker's fallacy because I'm using a book.
Mm.
No, it's the same shit, dumbass.
Okay, on 12, Habel writes that this verse poses, quote, the pivotal question of the chapter, end quote. Despite humans achieving various knowledge on earth, they are still asking where wisdom can be found. Wisdom is personified and depicted as herself having an appointed place, makom, where she belongs in her own design of things. God alone knows the whereabouts of wisdom, in verse 23, and human beings cannot find wisdom by themselves, in spite of their skill. Clines notes that according to Michael V. Fox, chokhmah, wisdom, is a very general word for all kinds of know-how, while binah, understanding, refers much more specifically to intellectual discernment. He notes that Newsom interprets the combination of the two terms as suggesting, quote, the kind of understanding that would provide insight into the nature and meaning of the entire cosmos, end quote. Still, he notes that the reader is still left very much in the dark about what the wisdom may be that is being sought. He writes, quote, in the end, the wisdom of chapter 28 is far less grand and far more banal than the drama of the poem may have suggested. Wisdom turns out to be no more cosmic in its scope than appropriate fear of the deity and the avoidance of wrongdoing, in verse 28. It remains uncertain whether any distinction is intended between wisdom and understanding, especially since understanding drops out of view entirely except for the refrain in verse 20 and the concluding aphorism in verse 28.
So, what's the word for wisdom that's used in Proverbs 8?
Proverbs 8 is very general.
Do you mean the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom?
That doesn't answer my
Chokhmah?
question.
There is some. The chokhmah, I think. There is also tvuna.
Okay. So is that the one that was used here?
Here it uses chokhmah and bina.
Okay. Oh, I see.
But it's yeah, but it's like it's similar to like the tvuna and bina. I think have the same root.
Yeah. Once we get to Proverbs 8, I think we'll have some fun. There's some very interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fairness, wise believers will refer to things like the fear of the Lord more like awe. You know, if you have to have respect for great forces of nature, the way that you have a sort of a fear of the sea, but you also can love it. But also, yeah, don't fuck with that. It can totally take you out.
Isaac Raskin did not voice this when he could have, but wrote in the chat that Freddie Fleinstein says Yahweh Dabadoo.
Yeah. Freddie Flintstein. Freddie
Flintstein.
Oh,
damn.
You accidentally pronounce one S and it causes all of this.
Yes.
Tom, have you ever met a Freddie? An Israeli Freddie?
I don't think I did.
I've heard it's like a nickname.
I did. I remember spending 5 nights at his place.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, I think Freddie is like a.
I had a dream about him once.
Yeah, Ephraim. Freddie.
This is what I have to put up
I
with.
don't think I've. No,
Oh, okay.
I never met.
Maybe it's an old. I'm sure I've seen an actor or something with that name.
I should have said
Okay.
nightmare. The joke would have been better if I said I had a nightmare about him once. Oh well.
Oh,
Okay. On verse 14, the deep, Tehom, and sea, Yam, are personified here, though Rashi takes the reference for those whose work involves diving into the seas. Habel notes that in the background of this verse lies the tradition of Proverbs 8:22 through 31, where wisdom claims to precede the construction of the cosmos, including the emergence of the deep. In Hebrew, Tehom, we see in Proverbs 8:24. Its primal organization, 8:28, and the assignment of limits to the sea, as we see in 8:29. He notes that the locus of wisdom is not confined to one component or area of the universe, but in some profound sense lies beyond it, which precedes the construction of the present world. Tur-Sinai took this verse to be in the style of a discovery legend, in which a hero searches for hidden wisdom, traveling from one presumed authority to another. He writes, quote, in similar fashion, the searches for wisdom are sent from the land of the living to the sea, and thence to Abaddon and death. Even these latter have not seen wisdom, but they have heard of it, and know that Yahweh is its possessor, When he installed the works of creation, he established wisdom too. But man has no wisdom save in the fear of the Lord and the observance of his commands.
Yeah, wisdom is an interesting word because the way it's used in religion, we can recognize wisdom as something that is distinct from knowledge. You can
I
have
recognize wisdom as something distinct from religion.
Well, that's very true. Very, very distinct. But this, knowledge is facts. You can know facts or not know facts. That doesn't make you smart or stupid. It doesn't make you wise or foolish. You just can't encounter everything all the time. So, can you learn? Can you admit your mistakes? Do you have the wisdom to, question things, be cautious to the appropriate degree, not to the paranoid degree? Those are things you learn by living. This idea of wisdom as this thing that belongs to God that you can never hope to really have I find it kind of repulsive, but I also find it very common. There's a lot of things in religion where you're like, oh no, you'll never make it on your own. You'll never be important enough for this without God here to give you the almighty wisdom and power and whatnot. And a lot of, I know, my experience of the Christian faith involved, it's just hymns and songs and sermons about how all the credit has to go to God for everything good, and not by your own strength or power. You can never give yourself credit for your skills. You can never take credit for your natural talents. Everything is always credit to God. It's infantilizing. It keeps you dependent the way that they do that. And it prevents wisdom, I think, because a wise person questions, a wise person is measured, a wise person can admit when they're wrong, and you're not allowed to think in those ways that would allow you to cultivate wisdom. So wisdom is always with God because you're not allowed to have any.
How could a wise person be wrong from that perspective?
Well, I mean, Socrates said that wisdom is knowing what you don't know.
Yeah, well, no, I get that. I get that. And everybody's smart about certain things too. It doesn't mean if you speak outside your field that you'll still be a genius.
No.
I had a boss who was angry at me. He says, why was I speaking on matters of science in a public venue? He said, I can't know anything about science because my sales figures were very low. He thought if you're good at anything, you must be good at everything. And if there's anything you're not good at, then you're not good at anything. Weird logic.
Now that is an absence of wisdom.
Indeed.
Because that's a kind of stupid that is not missing facts. It's missing any kind of self-reflection or just relationship to reality.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Okay, on 15 through 19, Clines notes that several commentators have remarked on the poetic qualities of these verses. Sorry. For example, Newsom takes the
There you
changes
go,
on the
wrestling with pluralization again.
No, I just wrote these verse for some reason, not these verses. So, for example, yes, I don't know. For example, Newsom takes the changes on the 5 different words for gold as, quote, a connoisseur's familiarity with rarities among rarities, end quote, and sees the length enumeration of precious items as, quote, a sensuous quality that suggests all the fabled riches coming from widely differing places in the world, end quote. Federici senses a dreamlike and surreal atmosphere, and Wybray calls it, quote, a kaleidoscopic series of changing images, end quote. Clines adds that the variety of terms for bartering and buying conjures up the bustle of an Eastern market, while the tolling of the unvaried monosyllable not, with which each line begins, brings home the impossibility of finding a price for wisdom.
I do
On
get the
23
connoisseur
sorry.
reference. Yeah, because he's mentioning, precious Jones from whatever, some exotic place. I don't know, Ipswich.
Ah.
Okay, on 20 through 22, Habel notes that these lines repeat verses 12 through 14, but with significant variation. Here, wisdom is characterized not only by its inaccessibility to mortals, but also by its profound hiddenness, elim. Humans may be able to expose hidden things of earth, but wisdom lies concealed from the eyes and minds of all mortals. Even Death and Abaddon confess that they have merely heard about wisdom, and do not know her personally. What Death and Abaddon say stand in direct opposition to the climactic word God says to human beings about derived wisdom in verse 28. On verse 25, he established the force of the wind. In the Masoretic text reads, La'asot laruach mishkal. The word mishkal is generally taken to mean weight. Clines notes that Driver Gray defined it as the, quote, maximum of force or weight when it blew, which it might not exceed, end quote. He also notes that in sailing, wind shear is known as the weight of the wind. He writes, however, that there might be something more paradoxical intended. As Dorn remarks, quote, the wind is the lightest of things, and yet God determines for it a weight, end quote. Tur-Sinai and Forer think that the ancients believed that the wind had no weight, which might mean that which might mean that its weightlessness was assigned by God. Hakham suggested that weight refers to the wind's intensity, and so God, quote, looks at every place and determines the force of the wind that will blow in that place. For some places, he determines a tempest, and for the other places, he determines a light breeze.
Isn't this one of the verses that religious people will claim, like, oh, you see,
Yes.
the God know, not God,
Yes.
the Bible knew that wind has weight.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes.
I know, but the thing is, they never seem to say when did we discover that the wind had weight or whatever. Like, it's always like people used to think that wind didn't have weight. Okay, but who? When?
Well,
So
when
God determined
exactly?
when or where the wind will cause this damage, when and where the wind
Yes.
will cause damage,
Mm.
and
Yes,
then
he
commands you
sends
to throw his finger to
hurricanes.
sea.
I was going to say he sends hurricanes upon Republicans, apparently, but yeah.
This is one of those. This is one of those verses. It's like the science in the Bible or whatever. Like, and I mean, the fact that you said,
and that's ridiculous because you said sailors would refer to the weight of the wind as the shearing force, because obviously that's what they were using to move around. You certainly, if you've ever felt even a kite, never mind a sail, pulling the wind, you feel that. That's a force.
Yeah, I don't know actually when, like, when was it determined that the secular world determined that wind has weight, and is this something that the Bible uniquely is knows about? I don't.
Yeah, I know they're not going to listen, but I would really advise creationists not to try and argue the scientific validity of the Bible from a book that refers to snow as being kept in a shed. Maybe that's just me, but
yeah. I mean, Tommy gave a good thing where good interpretation where he said, like, God sets the weight of the wind could still mean he said it to be weightless.
Absolutely.
Okay, on 27, Habel comments, quote, there is a mystery in eternal wisdom that transcends definition and can only be portrayed by metaphor. Here the poet describes that mystery as a primordial discovery of the Creator. He acquires her before the creation, as in Proverbs 8:22, and discerns her in the process of creation, in verses 25 and 26. After scanning the entire earth and seeing Re'i, all that heaven encompasses, in verse 24, he sees wisdom. To see means to know firsthand. God discovers her amid the totality of all things, not tucked away in a far corner of the cosmos. She is apparently the fundamental principle which governs the design of the world. Next, he appraises Safar and establishes Kun, her, as the pivotal principle of his creation. In the chiastic arrangement of the 4 verbs in this verse, the final verb, probe, explore, or penetrate, chakar, is parallel with the opening verb, see or discover, and recalls the use of this verb early in the poem, in verse 3. Just as mortals probe the depths of the dark earth, God probed wisdom to fathom her depths. There is a suggestion in this collocation of verbs that the poet is using the image of an individual who has discovered a precious jewel. Wisdom, like a precious gem, is sighted, examined closely, prepared as a jewel, and its interior probed for flaws. Compare verses 15 through 19. Wisdom is the flawless centerpiece of the universe, invisible to the naked human eye, and too intricate to be discerned by the natural human mind.
The goddess Sophia is supposed to be the personification of wisdom, though I think that was after this. There does seem to have been a concept of wisdom as a person, but also as a woman, wisdom crying out in the streets and whatnot. And that seems to be a poetic part of the language. Not necessarily literally. Men refer to boats as women, but
Yeah. I mean,
But
Bina is a girl.
Yeah, built her house, right? I mean, it sounds like an anthropomorphization.
Yeah,
God.
personified wisdom. Very, very
the
popular in
the word for wisdom in
literature.
Hebrew is also a name, just like Sophia is a woman's name. Bina is also a woman's name. Maybe not as
Yeah.
common these days as like a modern Hebrew name, but definitely like in Europe.
Yeah.
Bina.
Okay, and finally, 28. Several commentators consider verse 28 to be the climax of the whole poem, though the majority consider it to be secondary to the poem. Clines notes that the main reasons for these considerations include 1. The whole sentence is prosaic, especially when compared with the quality of the rest of the poem. 2. The words, and he said to humankind, Vayomar le'adam, are outside the metrical scheme. 3. The view of wisdom in this verse, that it is accessible to humans and that it consists in right behavior rather than in any kind of knowledge, is at odds with the view of wisdom in the rest of the poem. 4. The term the Lord, Adonai, occurs nowhere else in Job. Clines writes that while there is no reason in principle as to why verse 28 should not be a later addition to the poem, 2 questions still remain. 1. What is the meaning of the poem if it contains only verses 1 through 27? And 2, why does it stand at this point in the book of Job? He concludes, quote, it is more reasonable to suppose that the chapter strives toward a conclusion, and if verse 28 is an unexpected conclusion, perhaps it is all the more effective for that very reason, end quote. Hartley argues that the contents of the verse fit well with the book. It forms an inclusio with the opening characterization of Job in 1:1. And it connects with the last concluding statement offered by Elihu. Now, ancient Christians. So.
Yay!
So, this part of Job's speech, i.e. 1 through 11, is mostly interpreted by the fathers in a philosophical sense. The human being who is at the center of nature is allowed to have a limited perception and knowledge of God's power through observation of nature. The elements once subsisted alone, but when humans were created, they understood what usefulness could be gained from each aspect of matter with the guidance of his reason, concerning farming, building, and sailing, according to Gregory. As fire takes hold of wood, so when seeds are scattered on the earth, they drive their roots in it, and thanks to the power that they receive from it, they spring up, according to Ishodad. At the same time, as usual, the fathers detect in Job's words prophetic truths, and see here clear allusions to the belief of the Jews and the conversion of the Gentiles, according to Philip and Gregory. Those who have drained of excessive concern for what is below, God waters with streams from above, according to Gregory. Yes. And where is it? Yes. Even though Christ is here in verses 12 through 38, is metaphorically presented through a simile, his wisdom is above any simile or figure or type. According to Ephraim, to souls God imparts a kind of weight in order that they should not with light motion move away from their aim at God, but settle into him with immovable weightiness of steadfast faith, according to Gregory.
It is an old Christian idea that basically stones fall because God commands them to go to the earth. It's set their level, that they should always reach towards.
I should also comment from Ephraim. He writes, these words, i.e. verses 20 through 21, suggest that even though Christ is presented through a simile, he is, however, above any simile or figure or type, and is by no means comparable to the saints. He is said to be similar to the hidden and superior powers, but it is well known that they cannot even direct their looks to him. Yes, that's it.
All right, then, shall we to 29?
Yes, we have the time and the money.
Well, I'm glad you do.
I don't.
I can't afford anything anymore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the cost of living is...
Yeah, like so many of you, and the problem that, think about this. I mean, my living is based largely on patrons. So when the economy goes south, patrons can't provide patronage.
Right.
So like everybody else, I'm working longer, harder, and faster, but making less and paying more.
Good old capitalism. Fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous.
For all the conspiracy theories of how the liberals and godless heathens are being paid off by whoever the fuck they're demonizing this week, I don't know. I don't know any rich atheists.
Yeah, I'm definitely not among them.
I mean,
Not in real life. I mean, Musk was periodically an atheist when it served him, but he's just a narcissist. I don't think he counts.
Yeah.
I do know one. I know one rich atheist, but he started like 100 different businesses. Like he's like one of those guys who's just like start a business and just keep starting more and just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I could say that I know Richard Dawkins. He's certainly a rich atheist.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know a lot of others. I know people who used to be rich, who until recently were rich, but the economy has just knocked us all down. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said that part of my income comes from patrons. There's also the bit about revenue from YouTube, and it was pretty good for a little bit there. I was actually able to make my bills, but then the revenue from YouTube consistently chopped in half. So I'm making this much for a year every month, this much in change, and then and then it's half that for the next 2 years, every month, half of what it used to be consistently every month before. And then, so that's not me. It doesn't matter how much work I do. There's never a moment when I'm like halfway between what I used to be making and what I'm making now. No, it's consistently at this level. And then last year, there was another 25% drop where it doesn't matter how much content I put out. It doesn't matter what the quality is. I'm not getting above this. I'm making 3/4 of what I was last year, and there's nothing I can do to change it. That's algorithmic. And I don't know what can be done about that. So
I think a lot of creators are struggling with that.
Yeah, I'm
not getting you demonetized on these videos by saying fuck, am I?
No.
Okay, good.
Not if you wait 20 minutes. Okay,
so just don't
don't do it in the first 20 minutes.
Fair.
Oh, and by the way, since we brought that up, patreon.com/ARONRA. And at the base of most of my videos, certainly all of my edited videos, there is also a PayPal link. Because when I say I'm not making it, I'm not. This is a struggle. Okay, so Job again took up his discourse and said, "Oh, that I were as in the months of old." Gosh, did I just say that myself? "As in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone over my head, and by his light I walked through darkness. When I was in my prime, when the friendship of God was upon my tent, when the Almighty was still with me, when my children were around me, when my steps were washed with milk." Ew. "And the rock poured out for me streams of oil. When I went out of the gate of the city, when I took my seat in the square, the young men saw me and withdrew. The aged rose and stood. The nobles refrained from talking and laid their hands on their mouths. The voices of princes were hushed, and their tongues stuck to the roofs of their mouths. When the ear heard, it commended me. When the eye saw, it approved, because I delivered the poor who cried and the orphan who had no helper. The blessing of the wretched came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I championed the cause of the stranger. I broke the fangs of the unrighteousness and made them drop their prey from their teeth. I got 4 touchdowns in one game. And then I thought, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days like the phoenix. My roots spread out to the waters with all dew all night, with the dew all night on my branches. My glory was fresh within me, and my bow ever new in my hand. They listened to me and waited and kept silence for my counsel. After I spoke, they did not speak again, and my word dropped upon them like dew. They waited for me as for the rain. They opened their mouths as for the spring rain. I smiled on them when they had no confidence, and the light of my countenance they did not extinguish. I chose what they should do and sat as chief, and I lived like a king among his troops, like one who comforts mourners. Yeah.
Yep.
The end
Start the
again.
commentary. So should I start a commentary?
Oh, why not?
Sure. Okay. On verse 2, Hartley comments, quote, Job begins his avowal of innocence by remembering his former glory. He characterizes those days as a time when God nourished and protected his life. The phrase God watched, shamar, over me, describe God's special care for and protection of his own servant. Compare Numbers 6:24-26, Psalms 91:11, 1-1, 7-8. In a grateful manner, Job acknowledges that God, not his own wisdom and shrewdness, had been the source of his wealth. Job never let his pride lead him to make the claim that he had been the genius behind his success. His conviction about God's blessing keeps his lament focused on the real cause of his pain, a ruptured relationship with God. Since he never abandons his great gratitude for God's past favor, his lament flows from real hurt. On verses 3-5, Habel notes that Job's first memories are of a rich and harmonious relationship with God. Yet, in each memory, there are unspoken associations with Job's vehement opposition to the way God treated him in recent times. Job interprets God's compassionate watching as a sinister attempt to spy on him, in the hope of detecting some fault in him, as we see in 10:14, 13:27, 14:16. Instead of God being an intimate friend, as we see in verse 4, Job takes God as being a violent adversary, as we see in 13:24 through 28, 16, 9 through 14, 19, 6 through 12. Instead of being happily surrounded by servants and good things, Job is stripped of everything by the arbitrary intervention of a cruel God. Habel suggested that the reference to boys, Na'arim, might be a reference to the 4 groups of boys who died with each successive disaster in Job's first set of afflictions, as we see in 1 verses 15, 16, 17, and 19, a suggestion already made by Nachmanides.
With gods like this, who needs devils?
On verse 6, when my path was drenched with cream, Masoretic text reads, Birchot halichai bechama. The word halichai, derived from halich, is a hapax and is taken by several versions, like KJV, RSV, NAB, and NIV, to refer to road, path, or step. Early translations took halichai as a reference to Job's feet. Thus, Vulgate reads, when I washed my feet with butter, and Targum, when my feet were washed in the fat of cheese. This reading is favored by Rashi and modern commentators, yes, since the imagery of washing the feet with oil or cream...
No,
Yes.
wait. Oh, since my feet were washed in the fat of cheese?
Yes.
Oh my God. No.
Well, this imagery of washing the feet with oil or cream is familiar with the Bible, as we see it in Deuteronomy 32, 13 and 14, 33, 24, and Psalms 81, 17, which is 16. Clines notes that Gray regarded halich as a byform of halicha, caravan or traveling company of merchants in 6:9, and translates, my nomads had abundance of curds. Clines notes, however, that nomads are far different from traveling merchants, and writes that it is hard to see how merchants on the move could have anything to do with farm produce like curds.
Yeah, I'm one of those weirdos that doesn't like cheese. I can eat pizza and lasagna because those are both basically the same thing, and I can eat nachos, and I can enjoy those. But really, anything outside of that, no, I don't like. If you put Parmesan on something, you've rendered it inedible. So what you're saying here about washing your feet in cheese, that to me explains both why feet smell the way they do and why cheese tastes the way it does.
Well, listen, if you got a problem with cheese,
I know you're in the Midwest.
I can't let you back here, man.
I mean,
First
do
of
they
all,
even have cheese?
cheese is wonderful. Second of all, that doesn't mean you should rub it on your feet. Putting oil on your feet, particularly in the desert, yes, moisturizer, whatever you have, but not milk-based things, you lunatics.
I was
That
Yeah,
doesn't
you-
sound too bad.
I was in Wisconsin, and they took me to some, I don't know, beer hall thing, and they wanted to know what kind of food I wanted, and they, all these options that they give, everything's ladled with cheese. And I'm like, well, I don't like cheese. And the room fell quiet.
Yeah, we take our cheese pretty seriously here. Like, the thing is, we have so much cheese in Wisconsin, and people outside of Wisconsin don't know that there are in fact that many different types of cheese. There's a lot. All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
We
cheese
do a lot
is
of
great.
Unless you watch Monty Python skits.
I have like 4
Venezuelan
different kinds
fever
of cheese in my fridge right now. So
Yeah, I mean, most Americans probably think there's like 4 types of cheese: block, grated, in a can, and what's the fourth one again?
Ugh.
No, they're
Well,
only
yeah.
aware of
American-
Kraft American
American
singles.
pre-
And
Packaged.
slices.
Yeah.
That's not cheese. That's not cheese. That's not cheese. When I said I had 4 kinds of cheese in my fridge right now, I mean cheddar, Gouda, provolone, and brie, not whatever the fuck that shit is.
Yeah, my family could not understand anybody that didn't eat cheese. They would feed me grilled cheese sandwiches and force me to eat it. because in my family, my grandparents all survived the Great Depression. You do not turn down food, no matter how repulsive it is, and you eat everything on your plate. You don't leave anything. So that I was conditioned for this.
I tried
Yeah,
to eat
fair.
everything on my plate, and then I got, well, I had to buy new tops.
Yeah, and so I'm often dragged into all-you-can-eat places, expensive all-you-can-eat places, where then the challenge is, one, I can't waste food, and I can't waste money either.
Yeah.
So I have to eat until they owe me.
Yeah, Aaron, I'm guessing you wouldn't like a blue Stilton.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that is
It's like
either,
a
but
very-
I do know that
very
Homer
pungent.
is getting very cranky. So we should.
Well, he
Well,
shouldn't
yeah.
have brought it up then.
You guys have
In fairness,
sick
the
minds.
Bible brought it up. Hey, we did not take the foot fetish angle. We could have if
You
we
did
had sick minds,
associate
but we
with
didn't.
it. And there is no
No.
shame in that. There's
There
no
is no
shame in
shame in
that.
that.
No shame.
I'm
Yes,
saying
only-
we didn't go the dirty route.
Exactly. Only put butter on your feet if someone is going to lick it up.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
waste
Yeah.
the food
Exactly.
like that.
No, not
just on
the feet, but the
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Everywhere.
The legs.
Yeah,
Guys,
Isaac,
whipped
you've
cream
now ruined butter
exists.
for me too.
Okay. Okay.
Whipped cream exists.
Guys. Okay. Let's just get back to the Bible. Tomer.
Hold on
whatever-
a second.
how he's
The
typing there.
atheist carpenter says Aaron was not more popular than cheeses that day. Obviously referring to Wisconsin.
All right, let's.
And then JJ, what is JJ AJ 8CF offers 20 pounds and says, I should have said 20 quid there. That was an opportunity. Chipping in on where I can, frightening what's happening in the U.S. Hope you all stay safe and sane, JJ. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is, yeah, it's shit's bad. Yeah, and now ICE is saying that they're going to go door to door, and somebody here in Dallas.
So there are definitely no historical parallels to that, right?
Yeah.
Definitely no historical parallels there.
Yeah,
I
they're
haven't
just
seen anything
straight
yet that
Gestapo.
didn't have an historical parallel to a very
It's-
specific event about 100 years ago. Yes.
Yeah, it's their color. They're literally it's tracing paper. It's tracing paper with orange paint and apparently dementia.
Yeah,
But that's
that,
it. It's just tracing paper.
That Venn diagram is starting to look a lot like a circle.
It's literally just slightly different branding, not really different branding, slightly different branding, very
Yeah.
slight.
Ahem.
Yeah, it's terrifying, and I'm sorry your country is dead.
Yeah, that it's just they spell Nazi as MAGA now, but subtle differences.
NATC, National Christian.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, on 7 through 11, Habel
yeah. Quit
comments.
holding us up, Tomer.
Habel comments, quote, Job introduces himself here as a man of stature held in high honor among the leading citizens of his world. His great wealth had apparently not alienated him from his community. The city gate where Job resided, compare verse 25, was the hub of commercial and political life in the average town of the ancient Near East. Compare 2 Kings 7:1 and 18 and Ruth 4:1 and 11. In particular, the gate was the locale for the administration of civic order and justice, as we see in Deuteronomy 21:19 and Amos 5:10. Job's demand for litigation, as we see in 13 through 23 and 23 through 7, to resolve his conflict with God, therefore, reflects his confidence in a process with which he is familiar. If God would if God would but submit to the court assembled in the city gate, the case would be solved. Compare 31:35 through 37.
It's sort of like someone in a dead banana republic still saying, if I could just get a fair trial. When they won't even arrest the criminals.
On 14, Habel notes that Job makes the claim that justice and righteousness were second nature to him. He uses the image of being robed to express the fact that he has donned the robes of office and assumed the vesture of integrity associated with the office. The justice Job displayed was as obvious as the cloak and turban he wore while presiding. Clines notes that some suggested that by using this image, Job intended to say that righteousness filled or possessed him, as a person fills their clothes, according to Driver Gray, or that righteousness became incarnate in Job, according to Piquet. However, he writes that righteousness itself became more glorious, more noticeable and acclaimed through adopting Job as its outward form, making itself visible in Job, according to Strang.
That's a special language.
On 15 and 16, Habel comments, quote, "The imagery of Job being eyes to the blind and feet to the lame is not primarily a pious sentiment affirming empathy for disabled members of society, but rather a forceful expression of Job's capacity to protect the interests of such people in the court and the community at large. Disabled citizens were easy prey for this unscrupulous. Jeremiah describes the remnant unscrupulous. Unscrupulous, okay. Jeremiah describes the remnant of Israel as a great company of handicapped people returning under the protection of God, as we see in Jeremiah 31:8. In his role as defender of public justice, Job describes himself as a father to the poor and needy who had no one to represent them in court. Verse 16 is one of the few passages in the Old Testament where father, Av, has a broad derived meaning. Compare Isaiah 22:21. Thus, Job not only guaranteed justice in his role as a righteous ruler, but he also acted as a father or advocate for the poor and the disinherited. To act on behalf of the stranger is to demonstrate even greater magnanimity. Magnanimity, yes. Job handled the cases of outsiders whose character was unknown to him. Thus, Job's dispensation of justice also extended beyond his own familiar territory.
I mean, there were very clear rules about foreigners, strangers, and rules of hospitality and, things intended to stop people from being unjust to visitors, because you don't want that reputation. People might not come to your country if they think they're going to be thrown in a concentration camp.
Someone in the chat asked, "Is this live?" No.
No, we are all fantasy. We're in the Matrix.
All these are paid commentaries.
I'm not paying them. I do not have cash.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Okay, on 18. My days as numerous as the grains of sand. Hebrew for sand is chol. The usual understanding of chol is to sand, as we see in Targum, Rabbeinu Tam, Nachmanides, and Gersonides, which is frequently used as a metaphor for a huge quantity in the Bible. However, several traditionals take chol as a reference to the phoenix, with the Masoretic tradition of Nehardea vocalizing chul, based on the rabbinic exegesis of this verb, as we see in Talmud Sanhedrin 108b. Rashi wrote that the phoenix was a bird, quote, upon which the punishment of death was not decreed because it did not taste of the tree of knowledge. And at the end of 1,000 years, it renews itself and returns to its youth, end quote. The phoenix reading is accepted by Rashbam and Kara, and by most modern commentators. Clines notes that the parallelism with Kani as nest gives support for the phoenix reading, as well as, quote, it is perhaps more realistic for Job to imagine living 500 years like a phoenix than an almost infinite number of years like sand, end quote. Habel notes that Keresko cited evidence from Ebla, which included a reference to a lexical list containing the Proto-Canaanite word chal, or chul, with the accompanying Sumerian logogram indicating the name of a species of bird. Some commentators, however, favor the sand reading, including Tur-Sinai, Hakham, and Hartley, the latter writing that the emphasis on a new life springing from the ashes of death makes the phoenix analogy less likely, especially since Job had rejected any hope of a return to life after his death in chapters 13 and 14. Clines, however, writes that the sole point of comparison here could well be its immensely long life, whether or not it is subsequently reborn. Septuagint and Vulgate read like the trunk of a palm tree, which Clines takes as reading kanachal.
Yeah, I mean, the bird didn't eat from the tree of life, from the tree of good and whatever knowledge, and therefore it lives forever. So what does that imply that every animal did? So Eve took the fruit and then gave it to Adam, and then what?
She
And then
gave it to
every single
Adam, and then-
animal,
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
little
walked
surprised,
around.
that I
Including the
missed something
snake?
important. A bird ate from the fruit of the tree of eternal life.
no, I think
It
it's
not.
did
because
not
it didn't.
eat.
It didn't eat from the tree of eternal life, or it didn't eat from the tree of eternal.
Are you still? Are we
of
talking about a
knowledge.
bird?
It did not taste of the tree of knowledge.
Yeah, the tree of
The
knowledge.
bird did not taste of the tree of knowledge. Okay.
Yes. According to
I'm pretty
according to
sure
Rashi.
nobody else did either.
Maybe there is a midrash or something about how every animal in the garden had eaten from it as well, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just imagining a brilliant beaver, or
All 8 kinds of animal.
with
Yeah.
little glasses on his nose.
No, that was after it ate it. Then it was like,
yeah, and termites of infinite wisdom.
Yeah. Just let me check real quick.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and also we're using the word phoenix because it's similar idea to, like, is it Greek phoenix? Greek
yes.
legend? Yeah. But
ancient
there are
Greek.
other like similar like birds that live
Phoenix.
for a long time.
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Phoenix.
No, it's a phoenix according to ancient Greek. Phoenix.
What?
Oh.
And then the Latin, yes,
Phoenix.
phoenix, which the Latin is.
Wait, you can't
a-
be saying phoenix.
Do you think that's like the
yes.
Greek spelling?
Yes, phoenix.
Okay, let me check it. Hold on.
And
Yes.
that's where the Latin.
I used to live
phoenix
in
comes from.
Phoenix, Arizona.
I
That-
didn't know you were from Boston.
Phoenix. Yes.
Oh yeah, it is Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we use the English, like we use the word phoenix for like different like mythological creatures that are similar. So like the idea of it, rising out of the ashes is the Greek phoenix. That's not necessarily what.
But interesting also, that I got my best friend lives in Phoenix, and Phoenix, Arizona, is stupid hot. I remember being there at 1:00 in the morning when it was 118 at 1:00 in the morning, which
Yeah, was it?
50 degrees Celsius at 1 a.m.
That's ridiculous.
Yes. Just so they're already in the ashes. They don't rise out of it. They're there constantly.
Isn't
Yeah,
it like
It's like when you look across the street from whatever house you're in, you look across the street and the house across the street is shimmering from the heat distortion.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna stick with my Canadian snow. I like it, and I will go outside in flip-flops in ice before I go live somewhere where it's gonna be 50 degrees in the middle of the night.
Yeah, my friend, he's a biker, he's a Harley mechanic, and he says, "Hey, I can." Yeah, there's a couple of months that it's tough, but the whole rest of the year is great.
it's only 40 something.
Yeah.
Celsius.
And
Yeah.
if I lived out there, I would never bother putting the roof or doors back on my Jeep. There just wouldn't be a need to. They'd just be off all the time.
I mean, you need some sun protection, maybe, but that's about it.
Yep. I would put one of the furry things over the seat because you don't want to sit on.
Oh no. No. I have sat on leather seats that were out in the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to have to cover when I lived in Arizona before. I would cover my motorcycle exhaust, my motorcycle gas tank, with chamois cloth, because if your legs touch the tank, you know,
No, thank you. Do not want. Do not want.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Tomer, will you quit
Yes.
distracting
There's a
us?
couple more comments now.
Okay.
Um,
All right. So Tumpanus offers €2 and said, "What job did Job do? I hope it didn't blow." Well, there was all this story about tornadoes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
You-
there
did
was
you
someone
say-
who asked.
Did
something.
you say, Peter, not to read the next comment?
No, the next one was just a message to you.
Okay, gotcha.
all
right.
Okay. Yes.
Oh no,
On
there was
21.
someone asked who
Sorry.
asked. There was someone who asked a question to the panel, but maybe he didn't. Oh, he did. Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Peter, if you find
21
it.
through. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying if he finds it, you can add it later, or whatever.
Okay, 21 through 23. Hartley comments, quote, Job returns to recounting the respect that he received from the community, particularly in the city council, as in verses 7 through 10. Although the connection between verse 19 and verse 20 is rough, this pericope underscores Job's former honor and provides a sharp relief to his coming lament, as we see in chapter 30. The community listened expectantly to Job's counsel. When he spoke, others kept silent out of deep respect. They anticipated excitedly that Job's words would point the direction that the community would take. His rhetoric was so insightful that no one dared to oppose him. The manner of his speaking fell gently on the people. Through wise, gentle counsel, he inspired the community to carry out the right course of action. His words were awaited like the coming of the winter rains to water the dry earth. The community drank wisdom from them just as the ground gladly absorbs the spring rain, i.e., the latter rains which bring the maturing crops to a full harvest.
And I see another comment from Shut Up Matt, who says, panel, can you confirm Phoenix and Phoenicia came from meaning brightly colored?
Lawrence, I believe that one's for you.
It's the same word,
I'm not
but
sure
it's
what's the etymology.
I thought it means purple.
I think it's the same root.
It's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
the same root because like there's like phone, right? No, not phone. A different one. Was it? There's final. There's final, which means appear. But then if something is bright,
Yeah,
man,
but
I
the
don't
word-
remember. I don't remember.
I think the word I looked up. The word phoenix in Greek meant Phoenician, the color reddish purple, or phoenix. But they're not exactly sure if the phoenix bird is called that because it was associated with Phoenicia or because it was thought of as being that color.
Oh,
yeah,
and
so there is a book. Sorry.
yes, there is a book.
There is a book by Roelof van den Broek called The Myth of the Phoenix According to Classical and Early Christian Traditions. And in it, he claims that the word Phoenician appears to be derived from the root of the Greek root ponike, or Mycenaean Greek, which probably meant griffin, though it might have meant palm tree. That word is probably borrowing from a West Semitic word for madder, a red dye made from Rubia tinctorum. So it means those who work with red dyes, Phoenician, according to this. So phoenix might also have meant the Phoenician bird or the purplish red bird.
Yeah, the Phoenicians probably called themselves Kanani, like
Oh,
King
yeah.
Canaanite.
Yeah, Phoenix is also a Phoenician.
Tomer,
I see
Tomer,
that.
it's
Phoenician, purple, crimson.
Yes,
Let's
please
see.
enlighten
there's
me.
also a musical instrument,
Oh.
like a guitar,
it's
invented by the Phoenicians that they refer to that way.
it's Johann van der Broek. It's not English.
Wait.
Also refers to some trees too.
Wait. You said
Well,
Johann?
there's a date palm that's genus name is Phoenix, but I think that's named after the color.
The last name is Van den Broek. It's not Van den Broek.
Van den Broek, yes.
It's not English.
Van den Broek. Yeah.
He's from the Brook.
The Brook.
Is
Yeah.
he from Brooklyn?
Purplish red.
It translates to
I mean,
off the
Brooklyn names
pants,
in Dutch, right?
if that helps.
Oh, really?
Okay. Finally, yes.
So what does Brooklyn mean? Like pants?
No, I'm kidding. There's another meaning for brook as well. It's a piece of land, kind of land. So, a land between
Not like a
between
stream.
water,
Okay.
between canals.
Okay, finally, on 25, Clines comments, quote, "The hints of a royal status claimed by Job now become explicit. He dwelt among the townsfolk like a king," he says, "not like a king among his people, let it be noted, but like a king among his troops. In the army, there is much less room for debate and compromise. In the army, the king gives orders and his troops obey. The term for sit, yashav, i.e. to be settled, to be installed, also can have royal overtones, as we see in verses 7 and 8, since it is the normal term for sitting enthroned, as in Psalms 2, Psalms 2:4, 9:7, which is 8, 29:14, etc. The Septuagint additions to Job 42:17 actually make him a king of Edom. Hartley thinks more democratically of Job's being appointed by the people as their chief on account of his judicial council, and Anderson actually reads, "I was chosen," but not many kings, ancient or modern, have been appointed by their subjects, and the only clue the book provides to explain why Job is their chief is that he is the wealthiest man in 1:3.
He also claims it's because of his wisdom, although the wealthy are often called wise by those around them who don't wish to lose their favor.
Isaac, I looked it up for you. So Brooklyn comes from the Dutch breukelen, which is swampy land, which is probably why Trump hates New York. Because he needs to drain it.
Yeah, I think the English just changed the spelling to make it sound like brook, as in like river, but it's more like broker, like broken land, right?
Yeah, a brook in Dutch is swampland, kind of swampland.
Interesting.
Yes. Ancient Christians, yes. Gregory writes that the gate of the city refers to good actions by which the soul enters the heavenly company, while the gates of death refer to bad actions that drag the soul to destruction.
The gates of death.
As if the whole wise old men sitting at the gate of the city wasn't like a recognized form of government in that area that's been referenced all throughout the Bible to date. Oh, look at the pretty, pretty princess. Oh.
Her name is Persephone.
Persephone. Very good name.
With 3 R's.
Obviously.
Yeah. Gregory and Chrysostom also said that prophetic truths are also found in Job's words. And Gregory writes that in the early reign, he bestowed... prophetic truth... in the early reign, I thought it was definitely... Yes, in the early reign, he bestowed on his elect the knowledge of the law, but with the incarnation, he would give the latter rain that waters the mouth of all who hear. The brightness of the Lord's countenance does not appear to sinners, according to Gregory.
Right. Okay, so we can't see the brightness of the wisdom of the God who keeps snow in a storehouse because of our sins.
Yes.
Yeah, for whenever God has to go to battle, like who does God have to battle? That he has to be prepared to battle.
Well, he does want his people to go invade other people, take their shit, and kill them. So, a lot. A lot. Remember when I said dibs on the next genocide and you were all horrified?
Yeah, I'm done.
Somebody said Aaron must be Mephisto since he has a 3-arsed cat.
Oh.
I'm not getting that.
It's probably a pop culture reference. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mephisto. Is that not Greek
Mephisto.
mythology?
Is that Mephisto, right?
I thought
No,
that was
that's
Demon.
Faust. Wait,
Oh,
is
yeah,
that
it must be
is that Goethe's Faust, Mephisto?
Goethe's
If I
Faust?
remember
Yeah,
Yeah,
powerful
he
demon.
is also there, although I think there's other references to the name. Mephisto is the
Yeah.
name the devil goes by in
Wait,
Faust.
it gives
The
me
devil's
no,
agent in Faust legends. Yeah.
Goethe. Yeah. I remember.
Oh, so does
Somebody
he have
said
like
it's a
a...
Mephistopheles. Yes.
Somebody said it was a South Park reference.
Oh, I have to catch up on South Park. I love how they continue to tell the truth about things that are going on, and they give no fucks.
Yeah. Well, if we don't stand up to these people, then we're going to be killed by them. So let's en masse do what we can.
Agreed.
Yes. Who reads the next chapter?
I suppose I can.
Yes.
It's been a while since Lilith read, no?
So
what does she do here?
Do we already read 30?
Oh.
What do
Jezreel?
I do here, Aaron?
Fine, Lawrence volunteered. Lawrence, take it.
So chapter 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But now they make sport of me, those who are younger than I, whose fathers I have disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. What could I gain from the strength of their hands? All their vigor is gone. Through want and hard hunger, they gnaw the dry and desolate ground. They pick mallow and leaves of bushes, and to warm themselves, the roots of broom. They are driven out from society. People shout after them as after a thief. In the gullies of wadis they must live, in holes in the ground and in the rocks. Among the bushes they bray. Under the nettles they huddle together, a senseless, disreputable brood. They have been whipped out of the land. And now they mock me in song. I am a byword to them. They abhor me. They keep aloof from me. They do not hesitate to spit at the sight of me, because God has loosed my bowstring and humbled me. They have cast off restraint in my presence. On my right hand the rabble rise up. They send me sprawling and build roads for my ruin. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. No one restrains them. As through a wide breach they come, amid the crash they roll on. Terrors are turned upon me. My honor is pursued as by the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out within me. Days of affliction have taken hold of me. The night racks my bones, and the pain that gnaws me takes no rest. With violence he seizes my garment. He grasps me by the collar of my tunic. He has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry to you, and you do not answer me. I stand, and you merely look at me. You have turned cruel to me. With the might of your hand, you persecute me. You lift me up on the wind, you make me ride on it, and you toss me about in the roar of the storm. I know that you will bring me to death, to the house appointed for all living. Surely one does not turn against the needy when in disaster they cry for help.
I
Did
do,
I
and
not
don't call me
weep
Shirley.
for those whose day was hard? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? But when I looked for good, evil came, and when I waited for light, darkness came. My inward parts are in turmoil, and are never still. Days of affliction come to meet me. I go about in sunless gloom. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I'm a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin, dude, I would so love to be a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin turns black and falls from me, and my bones burn with heat. My lyre is turned to mourning, and my pipe to the voice of those who weep.
Yeah. I one time in my life I was able to experience wild ostriches, and that was kind of fascinating. We were at a paleontological thing. There's like we're all dispersed all over this area, and we're communicating by walkie-talkies. Everybody's alone. We're all looking. We're trying to cover as much land as possible. Somebody points out this old guy, this old geologist that's with us, that there's an ostrich, a rooster, and it's headed for him. And he turns and he looks like out over the valley. And I watched this. I could see this happen. He looks out over the valley, and the bird ran right behind him, and somehow he missed it. And this bird is way bigger than that guy. And I'm glad the bird ran by, because that could have turned out so very differently. But I'm just not used to that kind of wildlife.
I mean, they're dinosaurs. That's the thing. And they're literally dinosaurs, and they have the big claws. And you remember that scene in Jurassic Park where he's scaring the kid about clawing out his guts? Ostriches can do that, and emus. Oh my God. Has anyone seen on TikTok that lady with the emu, and she has to
I had a pet emu living in my backyard for 3 years.
Yeah, Aaron's saying I'm not used to that kind of wildlife while having had a pet
it's
emu.
Pretty ridiculous.
It's not wildlife. You don't run into ostriches out. I had a pet emu. That's very different. Raise something from an egg. That's very different than running into full-grown wild animals. Yeah,
unsocialized,
10 foot tall.
Did you guys know I watched Jurassic Park for the first time last week?
Did you?
Yeah, or 2 weeks ago, I guess. It was
for the first time.
Yep, for the first time. Never seen it before.
I just watched a bunch of videos from all these people, first time ever hearing.
Lilith, calm down. I watched it. Okay, I have watched it.
I saw these videos of like first time ever listening to Leonard Skinner Freebird. I see all these reaction videos. I'm like, how the fuck did you grow up? How did you spend your whole life? You never heard this song ever? I'm impressed by it.
No, I am. There are so many movies I have just not seen. You'd be shocked, actually.
I'm catching up to you. I can I'm too busy to keep up with pop culture anymore.
Right. Modern movies is one thing. I mean, like, classics, right? I haven't seen like a whole bunch of classic films.
I'm sorry to hear that. Which reminds me, we still need to schedule a time for Lilith to watch Time Bandits and Jabberwocky.
Yes, because I'm not allowed to watch Jabberwocky on my own, am I?
You can, but since you didn't get around to it, now I have to help.
I'm sorry. I had a few things to do.
Okay. So, do we have any commentary on this?
Certainly not.
I guess not. See you next week.
I guess not. All right. We'll go to the next one.
Zomer?
Still here. Am I a puppet to you folks?
Yes.
Do you enjoy my suffering?
Yes, I love shoving my hand up your ass and making you talk. Yes.
He walked into that one.
You really did.
I should say he sat on that one.
Yeah, walked into, maybe more backed into.
Backed into it, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate you all.
And we
Tomer, you love us.
you.
I know, but that's because I'm cute. Okay. On verse 1, Hartley comments, quote, "The displaced desert rabble deride Job, hurling taunts at him as they pass by." Yes, that's actually what he wrote. "These mockers are doubly odious to him by reason of their youth and their lowly status. In those days, the young were to show respect to their elders. But the most deplorable youths mock Job, who had been the most respected person in the community. These youths are so low in Job's sight that he would not have deemed their fathers worthy even to put with the dogs of his flock. Since the Hebrews disdained dogs as scavengers, those who were in charge of dogs were considered to have a very low job." Job also makes a play on the word deride, sachak, whereas he had smiled, sachak, on the assembly-inspired confidence in 29:24. Now the rabble deride or smiled derisively, sachak at him.
I believe that's derisively.
Don't gaslight.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Look it up. I'll look it up.
Okay, on 2 through 8, Clines notes that the connection between the picture in verse 1 and those of verses 2 through 8 is not evident, which led some scholars to take these verses as a later addition, according to P.K., Forer, and Hesse, or move them to another place, such as after 24:8, according to Moffat, or to delete them entirely, according to Dum, Driver Gray, and Federici. Clines notes that while there are several issues with the present placement of these verses, such as the ambiguity between the sons of their fathers as subjects of the description, or the impression that they make as pity for their misery, according to Piquet, unlike the evident note of contempt in verse 1, equally there are difficulties with removing these verses. For example, if we remove verses 2 through 8, then verses 1 and 9 would begin with "but now," va'ata, whereas it seems that the word is used in the speech as a strophe maker. Moreover, if we regard verse 1 as a later insertion, then those who make Job a song and a byword in verses 9 through 10 are his fellow counselors of 29, 21 through 25. And it is perhaps, quote, "not likely that those dignified senators would descend to such treatment of Job," end quote, according to Piquet. He further writes, quote, "On the assumption, then, that these verses do belong here, we should no doubt suppose that it is the fathers of Job's youthful scorners who are here described. Job would then be attributing to those who dishonor him fathers who have no land or resources, nameless people, in verse 8, perhaps mentally disturbed, who eke out a miserable existence on the edges of the settled land. We cannot possibly believe that the only people who scorn Job, whatever that means, comes from the lowest orders of society, but that is how Job would like to represent things. His only mechanism for handling the dishonor he is suffering is to try to assign even greater dishonor to his opponents. He presumes that they come from disreputable backgrounds, and moreover, that extreme poverty is itself a dishonor."
I mean, that was the is in line with the attitudes of his day, but then at the same time he says that he stood up for the poor and tried to help them. So this isn't just poverty, this is bad sorts, you know.
Yeah. Okay, on 9 through 11, Habel comments, quote, "Job is an outcast even among the outcasts. Those whom society ostracized in verse 1 now mock and ridicule Job. He is open game for public abuse. The epitome of humiliation is to suffer the indignity of people spitting on one's face, in Isaiah 56. Those who enjoy spitting in Job's face are the scum of the society. Job's shame is laced with bitter irony. Job had claimed that the light of his face was a source of life and favor for members of his community, as we say in 29:24. It rivaled the light of God's countenance as a source of blessing. Now his face was showered with spittle and mediated nothing but disgrace. Job claims in verse 11a that the reason for his abuse lies with God, who afflicted ani him without cause and made him appear accursed, compared Psalms 90:15. The outcasts direct their animosity against the accursed face of Job, the one-time dispenser of blessing, in 29:21 through 24.
What verse are you on now?
9 through 11.
Okay. Thank you.
On 12 through 14, Hartley comments, quote, "The rabble have attacked Job with such force that it appears as though they are besieging a fortified city. Exactly what forces or foes Job has in mind is difficult to tell. The context suggests that he is thinking of the abuse he receives from the desert dregs. Certainly, the loathsome appearance and the repulsive manners of these dregs would stimulate his imagination and perhaps cause nightmares. In any case, this passage is the closest Job comes to considering that some evil force is assaulting him. Job describes their attack against his right side, the place of strength and honor. They send my feet to their ruin, i.e., they lay traps along every path of escape. They also make impassable the roads that lead to Job in order to prevent any help from reaching him. Having isolated Job, they build up a siege ramp to breach the wall. Under the drawn-out siege, Job languishes. Job feels that their tactics promote my calamity, quote-unquote. That is, their continuous bombardment of him increases his suffering daily without any relief. Eventually, they make a wide breach in the wall and rush into the city like a mighty torrent of water. Inside the walls, they delight in turning the beautiful city into a heap of rubble. That is, the rabble relish tormenting Job."
I have a question on a colloquialism.
Yes.
In the version that I'm reading, verse 12 says, "They build roads for my ruin." I don't
Yes.
understand what am I not understanding about building roads for my ruin? That doesn't make any sense for me.
They're making a path for him to fail.
Okay.
Yeah, my ruin, as in like my downfall.
No, I get that part. I didn't
Yeah.
understand the build roads for, I figured there's a colloquialism there that I'm not understanding.
It reminds me vaguely of a phrase I heard attributed to Sun Tzu, build golden bridges behind your foes, of like the idea of building a path for people to go down the way you want them to, instead of just,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Steinsaltz has maybe not an exactly like literal translation, but he says, "Press me onto their ways of calamity." So, like, put me onto this way that they've made for me that will bring to me my ruin, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. On 15, Habel notes that Job's assailants are now revealed to be the terrors, Bahalot, previously defined by Bildad as the minions of death, Mot, the king of the underworld, as we see in 18, 11, and 14. What Bildad had predicted would befall the wicked has now overtaken Job, being hounded by forces driving him to the domain of death. Job loses his sense of honor, Nedivah, and prestige, Yeshua, which Habel takes as referring to Job's former status as a prince, Nadiv, and noble citizen, Shoah, as we see in Isaiah 32:5. Job claimed to be as powerful as a king among his troops in 29:25. But now the tables are turned, and Job faces the demonic troops of death. Habel adds that the removal of Job's honor and prestige recalls the act of God stripping Job of his glory and crown, as if he were the deposed king of a conquered city, as we see in 19:9.
I'm seeing somebody in the chat that I'm like, I don't know how believers are so oblivious. You guys are doing great. Keep seeking God and you will find him. Yeah, if you're determined to find the phantasm, you will find the phantasm. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. You just gotta believe it.
I've been told that so many times. It's like, oh, keep studying the Bible, you'll get there. Like, no, dude. Like, my studies have only led me further to atheism.
And then there's the second comment that you will come to realize there's no reason to be angry at him. We started out with the realization there was no reason to be angry at a fictitious character.
We already
We're
do that.
still not angry with the fictitious character. We're angry with the people who are lying about the fictitious character.
I hate lies.
Yeah.
The last time a Christian asked me, "Why do you hate God?" expecting their dramatic God's not dead moment. That's a god-awful movie. Just don't even watch it. But
which of the 5, Lilith? Lilith, which
it
of the
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And they were expecting their, Professor Radisson moment. And I'm like, I hate lies. I've always hated lies. What do you want? And they're like, no, you can't say that. Well, I did. So
Yeah.
Tell me
Also,
what
I
I
think
can't do after I've demonstrated that I can.
Now they're saying
Yeah,
they're
you
saying
can't
we're
say
all
that.
so angry. Well, everyone on screen is smiling, and I'm smiling
Yeah.
behind the
I
screen.
don't know.
You're joking and
This guy's just
giggling the whole time.
this guy's just a gaslighter.
Yep.
Yeah, he thinks that Erica Kirk is angry. Anyway, I think this particular commentator comes to a lot of the streams, and he just pops in, says something, and disappears again.
Yeah.
Interesting
Drive-by
method.
trolling, low
Yeah.
effort, mindless. 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
There-
And there's
there-
never going to be an admission that the fundamental mistake that we're not angry at the character in the fable. We're angry that we were told that this ridiculous fable was true when it obviously isn't. We don't like being lied to. That's it. That's all. They can't deal with that. Of course, they can't deal with the reality of why we are not believers. So they have to deliberately and deceptively, self-deceptively misrepresent what we're saying. Since they believe in lies, then the only defense of those lies can only be lies. And so they have to lie about us even further.
Well, and we do get angry because if someone lies to me about the contents of my own mind, on which, of all things, I am the expert, and then I say, no, that's not true, and they insist that I'm lying, then I get mad because that is insulting and toxic and infantilizing and frankly kind of a form of abuse. And then of course, if you react in a completely human way to this bullshit, then obviously you're proving their point and you're mad at God because you have hurt feelings or something. I don't know. It's a bullshit narrative. I can't keep up with their lies.
There is no logic to an irrational belief. So Can You Bio offers $24.99. I think that's Romanian lei. And this is for
Thank you.
systematic classification of life. Next to Star Trek: The Next Generation and Big Bang Theory, best series ever made. Thank you so very much.
Aww.
Yes, thank you indeed. And then Trevorn369 says, is it common to think that the Job story or narrative is at odds with certain traditions of the Middle East, or is it to be interpreted differently?
I would
Always
say
giving
when
us
we
those easy questions, Trevor.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
yeah.
but I mean, that's what we discussed when we were discussing how it's a very old character, and yet it seems to be contradicting the wisdom of, whatever the existing wisdom was, that God would punish the evil, and, if bad came, it was because you were bad and all the rest of it. So I would say, yes, that we've kind of established that to a degree.
Okay. On 18, Clines notes that in this picture, reaching from verse 22, Job describes God as a brute man, perhaps a wrestler, according to Dorm, or a pursuing enemy, according to Siegfried, who picks up Job and throws him about. He notes that in the Ugaritic myths, the god Anat treats Mot in a similar way. She seizes him by the hem of his garment.
I'm gonna pick you up and power slam you through the ring.
Thank you for that.
Is what I'm sure
sh-
Job heard.
So, she seizes him by the hem of the garment, takes hold of him by the corner of his robe, in Anat 140b. He writes that the imagery Job gives expresses his sense of being a pawn in the hands of an angry god, and the experience of assault on many fronts. On 22 and 23, Habel writes that Job accuses God as being sadistic and devious, quote-unquote, lifting Job to an exalted position, like one riding on the wind, only to effect Job's fall from a great height. The image of Job riding on the wind is reminiscent of Yahweh traveling on the wings of the wind, as we see in Psalms 18:11, which is 10, and 104:3, or riding on the clouds in glorious splendor, as in Psalm 68 verses 5 and 34, which is 4 and 33. Thus, Job is like a god riding high, only to be reduced to a melted heap by the one who exalted him. Habel writes that Job is convinced that God's plan is to surrender him to the enemy. The enemy death. Earlier, Job taunted God that one day he'll die and would no longer be a victim of harassment from God in 7:21, and also request a little relief from God's onslaughts, since he wouldn't be going away to the underworld anyway, in 10:20-22. Now, Job asserts that God has been in the league with death all along, by allowing his terrors free reign in Job's life, and planning Job's return to death. The motif of returning to the dust of one's origin in 10:9, or the womb of the earth in 121, is here given a bitter twist with the expression, return me to death. Habel writes that this idiom seems to imply that life on earth is brief reprieve from death, from whom mortals come and to whom they must return. On 27, Clines comments, quote, there is a physical reaction to Job's awareness of injustice. He as always is a psychosomatic man. His bowels or internal organs, me'aim, he says, are seething, ratach, choosing a verb for the boiling of meat in a pot in Ezekiel 24:5, or for the churning up of the sea by Leviathan in Job 41:31, which is 23. We notice that Job does not experience his bitter disappointment as a weight that burdens him, or as a drying up of his life force, or as the assault of acute pain, but as turmoil. In the same way, he had brought his soliloquy of chapter 3 to a close with his avowal of turmoil, ragaz, in 3:26. There as here, it is not the fear that he may soon meet his death, nor the anxiety that fresh disasters may be on their way that disturb him, but rather an existential and intellectual disequilibrium, the overturning of his moral universe. Though there are not many today who would hold to Job's view of exact retribution, the idea of living in a random universe would be no less unsettling to us than to him.
Who's this commentator?
Clines.
And when was Clines living?
2006.
Yeah.
A random universe, like morally random? Yeah, kind of. Not that morals are random, but that the universe does not appear to function on giving a shit about morals in a broader sense. Like landslides don't care if you're a good person. Tornadoes don't ask how much you gave to charity.
On 29, the jackals and ostriches are also mentioned in Micah 1:8 as a symbol of mourning. Quote, I will make a wailing like the jackals and mourning like the ostriches. End quote. Hakham notes that some commentators say that ostriches howl occasionally, such as Rashi, who reads, jackals and ostriches are busy crying all day, Gersonides and Kimchi, while others say that they are naturally silent all the time, according to Nachmanides. He writes that in this verse, Job has included two contradictory characteristics of mourners. They howl like jackals, and they are silent like ostriches. Tur-Sinai argued that instead of reading Bat Ya'ana as ostriches here, we should read it as a kind of desert bird, especially owls. He renders Bat Ya'ana as daughter of the desert. He notes, however, that, quote, the ostrich, especially the male, makes dismal, plaintive sounds, two short notes and a long one, which echoes savagely and frighteningly through the stillness, end quote. Instead of jackals, tanim, Septuagint reads sirens, Vulgate dragons, reading tanin, as compared to KJV, and one variant of Targum reads monsters.
Interesting.
Yeah. And finally, on 30, Clines notes that some commentators, like Forer, take the blackness of Job's skin to be a sign of leprosy, and that Job depicts himself as a leper. He writes, however, that if leprosy changes skin color, it is to make it paler. Moreover, it is improbable that true leprosy was known in the ancient Near East. He notes that Delitzsch argued that the blackness of his skin indicates jaundice that turns the skin dark brown, especially in the tropics. And Piquet thought it was the black crust of his ecthema, but writes that we really do not know. You're muted, Orin.
Thank you. Again, I got to wonder where was this story written? Because it sounds like it's in Africa, not the Levant, to me.
I wouldn't say that this necessarily blackness refers to like specifically the skin tone. Again,
are you asking about the ostriches or the?
No.
Well, now we're talking about the skin, and I am confused as to how black skin was supposed to be indicative of, what was it, leprosy that previously was declared as being white skin.
We've already covered that leprosy is used for all manner of skin conditions, but he is supposedly covered in sores, and I don't know. I'm assuming
the rest of the verses, my bones are charred by the heat, so maybe he's just like sitting outside and getting sunburnt.
Yeah, did we ever get an answer to that as to where geographically, where does the book of Job come from?
Well, we don't entirely know. I can't tell you like a city or anything. There aren't enough hints in Job to say that. But I mean, the thing is, it takes up traditions from the ancient Near East, especially from like Israel, Palestine, that region, that like Phoenicia. It takes up motifs, characters, even from that region, so it was likely written there.
So and the when it was written, because you and I have talked about this before. Job is an old book, but not the oldest book, as was commonly taught once upon a time. So are we looking at about like 2,500 years ago?
Yeah, around there.
Still in the Levant area.
Yeah, maybe 2,400 years ago, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Are we talking about where it was written or where it was set? Because if Job is a pre-existing mythical figure, it doesn't need to be set where it was written. And also,
no, I'm talking about where it was written, because of all of the references, to lions, or are they cobras, and all of these other ambiguities in here. I'm just there's references to ostriches, right?
Remember,
also historically were present in Middle East, and I think at some point they actually went as far as China. But
ostriches,
there was an Arabian ostrich that's extinct now.
Seriously, I had no idea. Okay.
And North Africa in general, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I would get that. I mean, just continental Africa. I'm not going to be surprised that there's lions and there's ostriches, but in Eastern Asia.
Apparently, the last thing I read on the subject, which was a little while ago, apparently they think the ostriches actually, when India broke off and slammed into the Himalayas, the ostriches actually went there and then migrated back around to Africa.
No.
So ostriches aren't native to... so what came?
That would be funny. Or like some variant of them. There was some very large bird that was that is now extinct, but it's referenced as like a mythical thing that is somewhere in
rock.
Well, if you're talking about something like New Zealand, I mean, yeah, they had the moa, and then Madagascar they had the elephant bird, but
no, there was a very big, like it's specifically Arabia. There's they imagine it flying, but it wouldn't actually have flown. But they found some bones. But I'm trying to remember this. I'm sorry, this was a couple of years ago.
I walked my emu into the park, which I would do twice a week. I would take my 6.5-foot bird.
What a crazy sentence. So I was walking my emu.
As one would, of course. Having snakes and cats.
Twice a week, he and I would go walk to the park. He did not have a leash. We just had a routine. So I would be walking a bicycle, and this is not so that I can keep up, because you can't keep up, not even with a bicycle. But as soon as his feet would touch the grass, he would do this weird thing with his head and take off. And now I have to go try to chase him down with the bicycle. because I don't want him unsupervised throughout the park. Yeah, but some people say really weird things when they see you walking with an emu. And one of the stupidest was when these kids walked up to me, and I'm walking with a 6-foot bird, 6.5 if he stretches. And they were like, "Aren't you afraid that he will fly away?"
Oh, at least they were children. At least they were children.
At least they were children. This thing wouldn't fly if you put propellers on it.
I mean, at least ostriches actually have wings. They could never fly with them, but they can,
Yeah. Emus don't. They have tiny little T-Rex arms, and they're useless. But
don't they have a tiny little claw that isn't attached to anything?
Yeah, it's a little teeny arm with a single finger and a claw, but they can't move. They don't have any musculature, so it's a completely vestigial limb. But the thing is, I'm walking with my bird down to the park. We have to walk 1.5 blocks down to the park. And all these neighborhood kids were out playing in the street when they see me walking with the bird. And children being children, they will run up to the bird, and the bird will starts playing with them. And the bird realizes the kids are playing with the bird, and so they're playing together in the street. And the bird chases the kid chases the bird. They do this nice little back and forth, which for me is just cute as hell. But then somebody came out and warned me that somebody had just called animal control, reporting that an eagle was attacking children. So I had to get him down to the park quickly. And fortunately, there was a big, organization or whatever having a picnic in the park. And I saw the animal control trucks coming, and we went into the picnic, and we had to sit his ass down in the picnic of all these other people and just make sure he doesn't stand up. As long as he doesn't stand up, they won't notice him, because a big crowd of people, we're all having a big old picnic. The animal control truck is driving through the park looking for this dangerous bird.
Just imagining his head
eagle.
Eagle.
An eagle.
Well,
he was also once mistaken for a turkey, which was the most reasonable thing.
Yeah, I've seen wild turkeys. Yeah. They're not the size of an emu, but
they're big.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
My best reaction was from a little 12-year-old boy. There's some kids that were playing out in the woods. We get down to the creek where the bird likes to go into the creek. He literally likes to swim in the creek. Which Australians are confused at, but I mean, they're like, no, he does. We go down to the creek in the park, and he will go in there and swim and have a good time. But as he's wandering through the trees, these kids playing their little games in the woods see him and freak the fuck out. And this one kid says, "There's a dinosaur in there." I'm like, well, literally, yes.
Yes, that was the most accurate reaction possible. So yeah, you did bring a. Do they qualify as raptors? I don't know if they have the.
No, he's not a raptor. Definitely.
Yeah, I thought it was the claw placement, but I was gonna say it's kind of like you brought a raptor to the park.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of comments to read. Trevor in 369, when mentioning Job's experience, it reminds me of how some Christians use their experience to suggest their innocence, and also why God chose them over everyone else.
Does he mean like in some sort of martyr way? Like this guy's like suffering?
I mean, I said last time that if you're suffering and struggling with it and you haven't done anything wrong, some people will tell you that you're suffering because you're God's special chosen one that are being prepared for something or have a destiny or whatever. It appeals to the ego, and it does make a person feel at least a little bit better if they think their suffering is for something.
No. And then Taste K7Q says, considering the book of Job mentions behemoth, unicorn, and leviathan, which are a rhino, an elephant, and a crocodile, not dinosaurs, I'd say it's in Africa. It does seem like that. but you have to remember that 36,000 years ago, if you would look at the La Cave, I can't remember how to pronounce that. They had
also, I think unicorn is only one translation.
Yes.
And I remember thinking that was the best one. Others have explained that despite all intuition, that actually refers to an animal with 2 horns, which makes no sense to me, but that's what the scholarship maintains as a consensus.
I'm pretty sure it's just the King James that does that, and the King James notoriously sucks.
Yeah, accuracy in translation is not what you go to the King James for. Accuracy in ancient poetic tropes is what you go to the King James for.
Yeah.
And it's very serviceable in that specific, limited way.
And while it is true that Job's description of the unicorn does perfectly match Rhinoceros unicornus, the species known as Indian rhino, it is commonly taken that is not an Indian rhino, that it is some kind of like Cape buffalo sort of thing, which makes no fucking sense to me. However, behemoth, hands down, that's an elephant. And regarding Leviathan, there are 2 different interpretations, and one of them is heavily embellished. So when they describe the physical traits of this animal, they are indeed describing a Nile crocodile.
I mean, we went over this about how their like behemoth is like some archetype of beasts.
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's just supposed to be like all of the beastly things that we can consider. That's what behemoth are.
But it absolutely does.
And then Leviathan are meant to be eaten at the end of the universe anyways. At the end of time, they're all going to have a big feast and eat Leviathan.
Yeah.
Yum.
Which probably stems from like I think a chaos monster thing. So
Leviathan
one salted.
Yeah, Leviathan is connected to the chaos dragon or serpent.
The name is similar to Lotan, which is the chaos dragon
and it's also similar to Jormungandr, which is a serpent that eventually will eat the world.
Could all the serpents please stop eating the world?
That reminds me that like I remember that there was like one Christian who wrote a song about Behemoth being a dinosaur, and it essentially is almost the same as like the chords for the Jesus thing. Behemoth is a dinosaur, behemoth, so something like that. I don't remember.
Was that Kent Hovind?
No, that was Ian Juby.
Oh
no, it wasn't Ian Juby. It was I can't remember the name of that idiot.
Juicy.
No,
Ian Juby is the fat Canadian Mensa guy because he tested high in intelligence in school and has decided this means he knows everything. He's a dumbass.
I forget the name of the guy with the acoustic guitar who did that ridiculous song and is probably famous for nothing else.
Ian Juby was famous for pointing out how evolution doesn't work by going on an inflatable boat in the middle of the lake and then shooting into his boat. I still don't know how that disproved evolution, but it made for some good video.
Oh, I think he botched what mutations mean. Essentially,
they always imagine that it's a single individual that decides to grow legs or wings or whatever in that one lifetime, so that they think that magical transformation is the same thing as population genetics over many generations.
Yeah, even my family members were shocked when I said, no, it's populations that evolve, not individuals. And literally every creature ever born has come from a parent of the same species as it. That's what evolution says. And they were like, no. And I'm like, yes, that's what evolution says.
I always get a kick out of explaining the law of monophily to people. Like, that's always like my favorite thing to do with creationists now. because they're convinced that like, oh, how do you get this new species out of like something that from a different species? I'm like, you don't. Like that's how that works.
I genuinely, I asked them, do you understand why a griffin could never evolve? And they're like, yes, it could. Yes, it could. It could if those were the conditions that needed I'm like, no, it could not. There are very clear, legitimate reasons why a griffin could never evolve, particularly on Earth. Let's leave out alien species altogether. It can't happen.
The front half of an eagle, including both arms and legs, and then just the back half of a lion.
You're not going to get fur in an tree. You're not going to get a vertebrate with 6 limbs. You might get like a half absorbed twin individual, but as a schemata, no.
Yeah.
Quadruped is the
Tetrapods.
schemata. All else comes from this.
Trevor on
There might be
369.
fish.
I'm sorry, Isaac, what were you going to say?
I was like vertebrate. You could maybe have a fish with 6 fins, but not once it's already a tetrapod on land.
Yeah.
It's 4. That's it.
Trevor and Isaac knows he's been working on the system. He's been working on the Phylogeny Explorer project. Trevor in 369 says, "Is Job meant to be a difficult understand? Is Job meant to be difficult to understand on purpose?"
I don't. Probably not on purpose. It would be, I think, for a text like Job, it'd be pretty weird to be, written as difficult on purpose. It certainly is difficult to understand for us today, and
it's always easier for people who speak the same language.
Well, sure, yeah, that is absolutely true.
And the version of the language,
especially in the context that it's written in, right?
Yeah,
because it would have been even easier for not just people who spoke the same language, but for people who knew like the dialect or the poetry or something like that, right?
Cultural references and motifs.
Yeah.
It is wisdom literature. It is intended to make you think. It is intended to be difficult to understand to some degree. The scientific inaccuracies that we pick at, not necessarily what they were meaning, but the idea of meditating on justice and injustice in the world, and people's reaction to it, and whether or not those stories that we tell ourselves about people deserving their misfortune are true or false. That is something I think humans have wrestled with for a very long time. The way we want the universe to be versus the way it appears to actually be. We don't get what we want with that a lot of the time. And it is what it is. But like wisdom literature makes you face that and think about it and work through it. So in that sense, yeah, I think it was meant to be difficult. If not impossible, at the very least. It's like art. Art makes you think. You don't necessarily like it, but it makes you think.
Taste K7Q says, another thing with Behemoth, he moveth his tail like a cedar, makes no sense for a sauropod since dinosaurs likely had stiff horizontal tails meant for balance, not swaying around.
I'm sorry that I'm sorry that I'm interjecting, but we're not in chapter 40 or 41 or whatever Behemoth is. So like,
not quite. Yeah.
Can you please wait?
We'll get to it.
We could. We will have a bucket of chuckles when we get to that. Okay, I'm going to respect Tomer's. We could talk about this. We will. We will get there. I promise.
There will be dragons. Yes.
Yes. And then Taste K7Q says, I'm a little shocked. I haven't heard creationists saying that the snake in the Garden of Eden was a dinosaur. Imagine a talking Allosaurus tempting Eve to eat the fruit.
If you want something really fucked up, there is a creationist chick tract. I don't know if it's the one you did with the old Bible Reloaded years ago, but they literally show Eve in the garden, and the snake is a snake man. Like it's some sort of like scale version of a furry. Like it's a full arms and legs standing man, giant snake head, long tail. I'm assuming the whole thing would be green if they colored it in. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen.
The most ridiculous thing regarding that I've ever seen was at the Institute for Creation Research, where part of their creation museum was the serpent from the garden, who looked, for all the world to me, and I know it'll only be people of my generation who get this, who looked like a slee stack. It was a reptiloid. It was a reptilian human with arms and legs, standing like a person would.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was just. And but it had the big hooded, like the cobra hood.
No,
did
you never see Land of the Lost, that old Sid and Marty Krofft show?
No, not that one.
Tens
Sorry.
of dollars to make.
So the guy said
dozen of dollars.
So the commentator said that imagine a talking Allosaurus, but I think the Christian version, it's a Carnotaurus because it's the devil.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't think they think about it that deeply. Hey, Tomer.
Yes.
We got any more of this?
No. I have ancient Christians.
Oh,
we do
Christians.
have more of this.
Yes.
I get so frustrated when I ask people yes or no questions and they give me the wrong answer, and then I find out no. Well, then why did you say yes when you meant no, or vice versa? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So, Gregory said that Job's affliction is also a symbol and a figure of the church in the time of its tribulations, being spat upon, insulted, and beriddled. Yes.
That's like that bird person in the chat just
bridled,
now.
Bridled, yeah. Bridled. I don't know.
No, I'm saying it sounds like they were riddled with those damn Gnostics riddling us. All this.
Yeah, completely distorting what's going on.
Also, is that Gregory again? His where is that? Yes, Ephraim and Gregory said that his present affliction is a foreshadowing of Christ's passion, a figure of the future salvation through the grace of the Redeemer. Ephraim said that Job prefigures Emmanuel, who, even though he was God, was thoughtlessly considered to be unworthy when clothed with flesh.
Emmanuel's.
I can't believe Jesus. It took them this long.
Emmanuel's Jesus, by the way, for those that don't know.
I mean, not really, but yeah.
For them.
For them.
It was something or other, Malal Hashbaz.
Mahel Shalal Hashbaz.
Yeah. If you want to stick with the prophecy.
Prophecies are very flexible things when they need to be.
Any more, Tomer?
Nope.
Okay, so the comment, if you're going to make the comments, if you're going to be an apologist, you're going to read the Old Testament where they're clearly not talking about Jesus, none of them, and you're going to make these comments, why don't you just have it like on a rubber stamp? This prefigures Jesus, stamp. This chapter prefigures Jesus, stamp.
I mean, yeah, like it pretty much is. Anything that is a trope prefigures Jesus. Anything that isn't a trope prefigures Jesus. It's pretty easy. Jesus doesn't really have a lot of personality of his own. He seems to be a bit of a mashup character.
Yeah. Okay. Well, same time next bat week.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We're not gonna try to do a midweek one.
Actually, I can't do a midweek. My schedule is full. All full with stuff.
Parties.
And as much fun as we have at your expense, Tomer, I do hope you understand that it's not sincere, jesting only, kindly.
I understand.
We do love
that,
you.
Lauren.
Okay.
I know. I know people tell that to me all the fucking time. Not you specifically, but people all around.
That's just what it's like to be the youngest child in the family, you know.
No disrespect, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we're going to be doing. We just did what was it? 30.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
31 is going to be like Job's final speech, his
Yeah.
final rant.
Before God comes in, all dramatic and
No.
bitchy.
Elihu
no.
comes in.
Wait, first you have
Oh,
Elihu
right.
and then God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't worry, everyone. Elihu's gonna set him straight because Job has went astray.
And the friends as well. He's going to settle with the friends as well because
right.
Yeah.
just,
Well,
like,
you know, he's
doesn't-
young, so he's wrong very confidently.
Yeah. So unless anybody else has something urgent to say,
Yes,
then-
I do have something urgent to say. Join the Discord. We do stuff there a lot. Hopefully we can play GeoGuessr again. That was fun.
Yeah, I want to try and do a gaming session again. GeoGuessr is one idea, but I also got like a board game that I think would be fun to play together.
Oh, I also so there's this game that I saw that's really fucking cool, or it's a really fun game. It's That's Not My Neighbor. I think that would be fun to play. Have you guys played that?
Oh yeah, I know that game. I recently play a lot of Balatro.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I think
it's a video
that's
game.
I think
okay,
That's
yeah.
Not My Neighbor would be fun. And yeah, we can set that up pretty.
There's an online version of That's Not My Neighbor.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
video
is there?
game.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
Oh,
I thought it was you actually had to buy it on Steam.
That's what I
No,
thought.
there's an online.
Oh, okay.
Like a cheap one, like a free one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll try that one out. We'll see how well it works. All right. Yes. Join the Discord. Subscribe to the Behold Network. The
Behold!
best YouTube channel. Behold. Damn
Behold!
straight. Best YouTube channel around. And that's all the stuff I have to shill.
All right.
Mm-mm.
See y'all next week, y'all.
Yes. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.